Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome back. How's everybody doing? We are live, so if you can see me, give me a thumbs up, like the stream. I would appreciate it. It lets everybody on the YouTubes know that we are here. And we're doing live readings this evening on the eve of the lunar eclipse in Taurus. We are getting ready to have this eclipse. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to chat with you today. We're going to be doing some live astrology readings. We're going to be taking a look at people's natal charts. We're going to be taking a look at the eclipses. What's going on, everybody? I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. I know some of you guys have been waiting for a little bit. Thanks for waiting for me. Sorry I was a bit late. I was trying to film videos earlier. There was like thunderstorms here. The power kept going in and out, and it's been a very Uranian day for me. What's up, Emma? Hey, Lavender, welcome back. David's is in the house. Hey, Enchanted, I got you. Hey, Coco, I've got you. Hey, Susan, Opie, Melissa, DH, Sandra, Lonely Cat, Das Life, Mr. Reborn, Katarina. Guys, how is it going? How are we doing? We have a lunar eclipse in Taurus coming, so I'm just going to tell everybody right now the energy is a bit high. And if you haven't been here for one of these live readings, welcome. I'm Candace. I'm a Western astrologer. On my channel, I like to do live readings on Fridays. I like to hang out with you guys and give you guys an opportunity to get a little mini reading with me. There is a QR code right over here. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you, I take that back, it's over here. I'm looking at my screen. It's on this side. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to my PayPal. You can make a donation for a reading. Ask any one question you want. Please be specific as to the topic or the question that you've got. You can ask a question about your natal chart. You can ask a question about a transit, timing, and equally, if you want to just know how this eclipse is going to be affecting you, let me know. I'd love to let you know. When you scan this, it's going to take you to my PayPal. You can donate $55 US for a reading. We're also offering Synastry for $70. And that's like relationship synastry, how you and another person interact with each other, how your guys' charts correlate. And then we're going to be able to do the reading. But it's very important because not everybody always hears this. For me to look at your chart, I need to cast the information that you give me. So it's very important that I get your time, AM and PM, date, including year, and please spell out the month, city, and you know, all that stuff. So time, date, location, I need to have that information to cast your chart. If you don't know that information, you have two options. You can call your mama or you can look at your birth certificate. If you guys don't have that, don't worry. I'm here every other Friday. You can always contact your local records clerk that will give you that information generally. And if you guys don't have that, I do chart rectification. Check out my website. I do offer that as a service. Okay, so when we have the astrology readings, they're generally pretty busy, so I appreciate your guys' patience. I will stop every few readings and let you guys know who I have left on the list. I'll give you roll call. Eventually, we'll do a countdown, so we'll let you guys know how long we're going to keep it open. Probably maybe for about 20 minutes because we've already got about 12, 13 people. Followed by, I'll let you know who's on deck. So I'll call out a couple names so that way you're aware as to your reading is coming. If for whatever reason that you're like, I got to go, peace, I can't stay up any longer, I'm falling asleep, or I got to go somewhere, you can come back to this link. It's going to be live. You guys will be able to watch the playback and you can watch your reading, okay? Consider joining my memberships. If you guys join a level 3, you'll get a reading once a month with me. You support me being a full-time content creator. So if you haven't seen my content, I create long-form content 4 days a week for you guys. Try to put as much out there as I can to help you understand what's going on with the cosmos. As always, your tips and your generosity is appreciated. It goes to the team. We're a two-man team. You guys don't see Oz in the background, but there is somebody who's also helping with the channel, doing their thing, helping keep everything in the chat, you know, so just give love to them as well, to the whole team. All right, what's up, Paula? I will add you to my list. Let's take a look here. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys know who I have in my member 3, level 3 group. Those who are level 3, we take them first, and then we've got everybody else. So just let me know what your info is. We have a power battery bank, and then it doesn't help the camera. The whole thing was a mess. All right, so we've got Catherine Murray. She wants her birthday reading. She's watching this in the playback. Emma, I got you this time. I see you. Lavender, Enchanted Crossroads, Coco, and Paula. Let me know what your question is. Outside of that, we've got Michelle, Claire, Fiorella, Maritza, Heather, Dorothy, Muriel, Trudy. And that's who I have so far. So if you guys jump in there, and if you end up getting a reading, let me know if you send your PayPal. Also, if your name is different than on your PayPal versus YouTube, please let me know. Looks like JMA Enterprises snuck in there, and Samantha as well. You lose a cord. Oh. We lost the, there we go. I guess maybe you guys were never in there to begin with. You know, Uranian things. You have to forgive me. I've been filming all afternoon. There we go. Is he gonna fix? Is he gonna go back? Every time I plug this in, it like moves around on me. So let's bring this over here. There we go. All right, so we got Samantha and JMA that popped in there. Just let me know what your questions are. Are you seeing this flicker like I am? Because it's going in and out. Sorry guys, give me just a second. What's up, Ripples? Let me unplug it. There you go. Tonga, I've got you. I will add you to my list. Give me just a second. Thank you. Let's see how this goes. Sorry guys, give us just 1 second. I want to make sure you can see the charts. I am not doing tarot readings tonight. We are doing astrology readings. Thanks, Samantha. Appreciate it. Sorry, guys. Stay with us just for a second. We've got some weird things going on here. Hopefully I can show you guys my software. We'll see. We're having some issues with it right now. Do you want me to unplug it? Cool. Thank Goddess. All right, so let me add Ripples. Tonga, can you send me your birth info, please? Thank you. And Paula, just let me know what you want me to take a look at for you. Verna says, good afternoon to my favorite astro worker. Well, good afternoon wherever you are. It's evening here. DH is Dorothy. Okay, cool. I'll call you guys out, so just let me know. And please, in the memo, put your birth information and your questions. We're going to leave that window open for like another 15 minutes or so. But please, 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 because I have to go back through the chat box. I have to leave that there. There you go. You only need to see this. Can I move it? Thank you guys. Sorry about this. We have a wire that's acting up. Thank you. What's up, Trudy? No worries. I'll make sure that that's in there. Is that in there? Yeah, I got you in there. You're good. Chart's working? We're good? Okay, cool. We're good. That's fine. Okay, so we will start with Catherine, Emma, and then Lavender. You guys are going to be the first ones to go, and I will add ripples. I think I might have you in here, but we'll see. All right, so we are going to start first with Catherine Murray. She's a Leo rising, Scorpio sun. She's coming up on her birthday pretty soon. Thanks, Rachel. And she wanted to get the lowdown on what to be expecting, probably I would assume with this eclipse and the fact that we are getting ready to see her solar return. So a couple things that I would say that seems to be pretty important for you, Catherine. Looks like you're just coming off of that eclipse that you had that was really close to your Juno. So it's getting you thinking about partnership, communication, and what you need from other people. The Sun, Mercury, and Mars are all moving into your 4th house here soon. Really important being a Leo rising. Obviously, it's moving through a angular part of your chart. So it's going to be about a lot of action taking place about your home, your emotions, family, residence related things. Can be challenging as you have these planets come into squares and opposition. So be mindful as you go through the month of November. You're going to kind of be feeling like, ooh, I want to stay home. There's a lot coming up for me in regards to my residence or my family or my emotions. That's making me feel like I'm being pulled in between what my body needs and what I need to be doing out in the world, right? So you might be feeling like you got to take care of stuff on the home front before you're able to go deeper into work and career related things. I also think about how over the next couple of days, we're going to see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction at 11 degrees opposing Jupiter. So this is big energy because it's almost trying to get you out of your home and out into the world. So you may benefit from quite literally taking time, taking a walk, taking a stroll, getting outside of your apartment or your house. That's going to be really loud energy as it sits on the angular parts of your chart. And it's really great for like work, professional life, like getting, seen out in the world, connecting with other people, receiving support from other people as well, because Jupiter is connected to your 8th house. But maybe consider watching my weekly, because I talk about how this is about sudden information and news coming in that does impact the opposition to Jupiter. For you, Jupiter is about creativity, it's about fun, it's about also changes and transformations. You might feel a little restless at home. Rearranging furniture and things can be helpful here. All of these planets are also 12 houses behind your Neptune and your Sun. So it might feel like you're like, hey, I'm feeling like a change is coming on the home front, or maybe you're thinking about moving, or maybe you're thinking about doing like a deep cleaning or a detox at home as well. And then 2, something else that comes up for me is that we're going to see very soon that there's going to be a Sun-Jupiter opposition, which is really significant for a Leo rising chart. Because the Sun represents where you're going and Jupiter represents expansion. So there is some sense of like optimism about what changes that are happening for you emotionally or privately that's helping propel you out into the world once again. So that 10, 11 degrees keeps getting re-triggered, and that's your IC and also your midheaven. So big things on the horizon for you out in the world. If you're feeling restless, I recommend also working probably with finding a balance between water and earth. So you can, work with baths, you can be trying to be by water, you can bring some potted plants into the house, work with some crystals, things to kind of better balance that energy out. I assume also part of this is Saturn's getting ready to station. So Saturn is by 1 degree squaring your Sun. So you're really feeling like you're ready to have a breakthrough when it comes to your relationship with other people, and not feeling like it's all on you. Saturn square the Sun definitely does take a swipe at your energy levels, and it can be more challenging with your relationships in your 7th house, but that's getting ready to break. Saturn will be moving, through Pisces now, really coming out of a square with your sun. So I think some of the health stuff is also going to ease up a little bit. Solar eclipse that we had, like I said, 2 weeks ago, and now it's making room for a lunar eclipse that's getting ready to come through, connecting to Taurus, which is your whole sign 10th house. So that's about career and reputation. That eclipse is going to kind of unfold over the period of the next couple of weeks. We'll see from mid-December to early January that Jupiter will return to 5 degrees. So are you traveling? Are you learning something new? Is there some kind of support that comes in? Is there some kind of opportunity? Any one of these things might present themselves, especially when it comes to like international business or maybe marketing. And then finally, Sag season I think is going to be really great for you. We're going to see planets move into Sagittarius, immediately start coming into a trine with your moon. And we're also going to see trines to your Saturn. So I really feel like the second half of November, things are kind of rocking and rolling. And don't miss that new moon in Scorpio either. That's going to be in your 4th house. And it looks like it is promoting or instigating some kind of change. So are you moving? Are you thinking about moving? Is there changes going on in your like apartment complex? Is there a lot of changes going on like in the neighborhood? That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with an eclipse in the 3rd house and then movements through the 4th. And then finally, something else to think about is that the Sun and Mars are going to come into close proximity still in Sagittarius. And they're going to hit a couple squares to Saturn. So be mindful with the Sun square Saturn transits at the end of November. Relationship communication or, you know, something involving like support from other people. There can be a sense of your emotions really flaring up in regards to how you relate to others, okay? Especially when like Sun and Mars comes into a square with Saturn. So watch for that as well. You're done with your nodal return, and we've got planets the second, you know, part of Sagittarius season that are going to be fully trining your 1st house and your North Node. So this is great for like feeling creative, romantic, having more fun, expressing yourself, and things that are going to give you the opportunity to experience more joy. So it'll be so nice to see Saturn finally come out of a square with your Sun and get some more fire that's kind of activating some things in your chart. Besides that, it looks like you're going into an annual perfection year 56 ruled by Mars. So the Mars transits this year are going to be really important. So like when Mars, you know, comes into Sag and it starts trining your Saturn and your ascendant, you might notice that there's more mobility and more action going on in your life. Really pay attention for when Mars goes into Capricorn, when you have your Mars return. Because what's going to end up happening here is Mars is going to move into its exaltation. So it's going to perform very well. And it's going to allow you to kind of, I think, overcome some of these challenges you've been having with your health right around February 3rd, 4th, and 5th of next year. When you're listening to the astrological forecast, listen for Mars. When Mars changes signs, when you hear conjunctions or oppositions, and also when planets are going through your 9th house. So that'll be like March and April of 2024. There's going to be a solar eclipse that's going to be there as well. So it does make me feel like you might be traveling or you're on the move in some way, or there's some kind of shift in regards to your belief or your philosophy. But I think it's going to do well with trines to your ascendant. I think that you're going to find that really from more or less the second part of November on, things start kind of looking a little bit more optimistic, and you're finally coming out of some of these challenges where maybe you have felt like stuck at home or within yourself for the last few months. Happy birthday. I hope it's a good one for you. Thank you for reminding me and checking in. Thanks, Paula. I got you. Thanks, Deanna. Looks like we got 5 minutes. If you guys want to jump in, you can. And those of you guys who want to get a reading, you can donate. We have Super Chat, or you can send something on PayPal if you want me to answer a question for you. So let's move to Emma's chart. Emma, I'm glad I caught you this time. I'm sorry I lost you last time. I'm not sure which, I wasn't sure which Emma you were, but you came back, so thank you. So Emma's question is, hey Candice, I want to cash in on my reading. Where should my focus be with this eclipse? Can I continue to focus on my highest good? Thank you. Well, look at that. Look at that eclipse that is trining your ascendant. I like it. So Emma is a Cap rising with a sun in Pisces and a moon in Scorpio. So two things come to mind. One is you have almost like the configuration of both a new moon and a full moon at the same time. I know that that sounds kind of like bizarre, but stay with me. You've got the transiting sun in conjunction to your moon and Uranus. So that's bringing you to some kind of group, some kind of collective, about collective changes, changes with your goals, changes with your friends. It can be also being a part of an astrology community right now, so you're doing it. And that sun and moon Uranus conjunction almost acts as if like it's like hitting restart with some of your goals. Sextile to your ascendant too is wonderful. It's stabilizing. And then you've got the moon down here in Taurus in opposition to your natal moon Uranus. So are there some kind of changes going on with your social life? Is there some changes going on with your goals or the way that you're expressing yourself? Are you trying to kind of be around other groups of people or getting support from others in some way? That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. But highest good goals, you know, the things that you feel like you're meant to be doing. Yeah, it's just there is a sense of you maybe kind of really focusing on, with this eclipse, what's going to make you feel the most fulfilled? What's going to make you feel the most loved, the most self-expressive? What's going to feel good? North Node, you know, being in your 5th house is about having fun and playing. And, you know, that North Node is still pretty damn close to your Chiron. So there can be a sense of moving through wounds relating to childhood or feeling good enough. But I think that this eclipse, for everybody, right, this is a full moon that is encapsulating what has been 2 years of eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. So you have to think back to like what you've been working towards really since the fall of 2021. So where we're at right now with this full moon is like the finale and like the icing on the top of whatever you've been hoping to achieve. I like the 5th house full moon eclipse. I like the trine to the ascendant. I feel like being creative and sharing your talent with other people or your feelings or something that you create is really important. The 5th house is your talent. The 11th house is what you share with other people. So this is a lot about, you know, putting yourself in the position of being a part of a group, joining an association, joining a club, starting something, coming together with other people. That's where you're going to have the most fun. And obviously this energy also comes into a sextile with Venus. So it's about showing your creativity in a way that allows you to communicate, write, speak, share, posting something maybe. Maybe it's like, you know, writing your intentions down. A much easier eclipse than I think a lot of other people are having it. Probably the only thing I would watch for is the opposition to Uranus, because it does indicate that there might be some unexpected, you know, out of the blue communications, ideas, unexpected phone calls, discussions, you know, like a changing of plans. That's very Uranus. Or maybe seeing something from somebody else's perspective. So there can be a lot of reflecting on, well, where are my goals going? How are things kind of setting up? And then asking somebody else for their opinion. Part of it could be you getting a reading right now. The other thing that I would say is that this particular eclipse, like I've said, is going to unfold over time. So from mid-December until January, we're going to see Jupiter at 5 degrees of Taurus. That's where this eclipse is. So something is still getting ready to emerge. And I think about how that's in opposition to your natal Uranus, and it's going to be about what you love and what you're participating in and how that allows you to kind of like have your goals evolve or, you know, meet other people basically. Anyway, do I think it's, you know, more positive and optimistic for your chart? I do. And across the board for everybody, this is an eclipse that is easier than the solar eclipse that we had in Libra. The only challenge that we're experiencing is we've got Mercury and Mars in conjunction, and it's opposing Jupiter. So I think about for you, this Mercury, Mars, this action, communication, you know, suddenly jumping into something is right on your North Node. And your North Node is ruled by Mars. Well, you got Mars along your descendant. So it's about you going, my goals in regards to, you know, relationships or partnerships or services, or my goals in regards to my relationship with my home, my family, my past. It's changing, right? So Scorpio can be about processing or moving through trauma or crisis. So I'm wondering, like, you know, do you connect with a group of people who may have sudden, you know, opportunities to give you insight into healing and to getting grounded and like working through some of these challenges in the past, possibly. If anything, I think it's going to be very social for you. So you might be getting a lot of invitations of people reaching out to you and asking you if you want to participate, if you want to be involved. Yes, but once you get involved, then you share. That's the whole point of the full moon in the 5th house. Okay, much easier for you than a lot of other people, so should go pretty well. Just expect the unexpected with that opposition. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Emma. We've got Lavender. I saw her sneak in here earlier. Let's see, where is that? What's up, MV? I can add you to my list. And readings are now closed, so if you guys got in, you got in. If you didn't, I will catch you next time. All right, so Lavender says, I am 3192. I got you. And you've got somebody who you've connected with who was born 11/14/1990. But we don't know the time. There we go. All right, so we just started getting to know each other. We haven't had a first date yet. Any advice on compatibility and when he might ask me out? I've also just experienced a family loss. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I am so sorry to hear that. I would assume that was the eclipses that you just had in your 4th house. 4th house, South Node, releasing or letting go of family-related things, and then the squares that you had to your descendant. So I'm sending you lots of love. All right, so let's talk synastry, okay? So for a lot of people asking the difference between synastry and composite, right? So synastry is like 2 people walk into a bar. They go on a first date. You sit there and you observe how they communicate, how they interact, the chemistry, all that stuff. Synastry, how the 2 charts relate to each other. Composite, I use 2 composites. Midpoint, I use Davidson. When I do relationship astrology one-on-one with people, I like to talk synastry, but I like to talk composite charts. So composite chart's a thing. Definitely consider that for serious relationships and better understanding the relationship together as a whole. But for the sake of today, we can't really do that because we don't have the exact time, but that's okay. So what do I notice right off the bat? So for those of you guys who are still training your eyes, she is a Cancer rising with a sun in Pisces, and her moon is in Aquarius. Now, the outside chart right here, this is the other person's chart. So with synastry, we're looking at what's kind of connecting and the aspects that are being made to one another. Well, let me just put it this way. I bet you guys like really, really have a strong attraction to one another. There's a lot of really interesting aspects that I can see off the bat. One is this person that you've connected with has Venus, the Sun, and Pluto all in Scorpio. In the 5th house of lovers, romance, you know, creativity, dating, connection, falling in love. So a stellium in the 5th house can definitely bring lots of emphasis to these topics. But your Pluto, which is a generational planet, is in Scorpio. So his sun, or I guess I should say their sun, is right on your Pluto. And as is their Venus, it's in conjunction. So it's like there was a lot of fixation, attraction, a lot of sexual chemistry kind of going on there. Yeah, and like Scorpio placements go deep. There's a lot of depth. So having all of those placements on top of your Pluto can indicate that it can be like a very passionate, very magnetic, you know, kind of attraction. All that energy trines your ascendant too, by the way. So that's really nice. And, you know, Scorpio and Pisces, they're water signs. So you're also experiencing some harmonious trines between your sun and Mercury, which is how you think, how you communicate, to their placement. So that's nice. 2 is he has Saturn right along your descendant. So that can represent commitment, that can represent karma, that can represent a binding glue, that can bring the two of you guys together. Capricorn, Saturn is in a really nice placement. You have a very strong Saturn signature, as I'm sure I've told you, with all these planets that you have in Capricorn and Aquarius. So to have Saturn in your descendant, like, he also may take love and relationships seriously. And the North Node in Aquarius is right on top of your Lilith. So there can be a real strong fixation, can be like obsession. I see obsession with Lilith and Pluto aspects. You have both. But North Node in the 7th I like because it kind of suggests that this person comes in and they show you how to do your 7th house. So they show you how to partner in a Aquarian way, which is unconventional, unusual, different. You've also got a whole stellium of placements in Aquarius, which squares all of this, Scorpio. So for Aquarius, you know, Scorpio is 10th house to those placements. So it does represent a challenge. Sometimes squares can be good. It creates a little bit of friction, which can allow the two of you guys to learn. I mean, it's going to activate a lot of midpoints. So it's going to encourage you guys to learn how to partner, how to relate to one another. I look for like Venus-Mars stuff as well. So, you know, he's got Mars in Gemini. It trines your Mars, your Moon, your Saturn. It also trines your Venus. Well, wonderful. And he's got Venus in Scorpio, which trines your Mercury. And it also makes, let's see, some sextiles to your Neptune. So your Venuses and your Mars, in some way, shape, or form, they see each other. I do feel like his Mars with all of your Aquarius stuff is a little bit more in better harmony. I think that what you may find is with all of this Aquarius square the Scorpio, there can be a sense of the Scorpio being like, wow, you really want to be out there. You really want to be public. Or they may feel like you're kind of pushing the relationship along because that's like a Saturn aspect. His you know, Chiron sits on your ascendant, so that can be healing you, helping you, learning to get in touch with your emotions. He's got a pretty complex Moon Saturn square, so I don't know what you know about his relationship with like a mother figure or challenges in regards to like home and family matters, but Moon square Saturn in his chart can be a challenging relating to women, especially Moon being in Libra. So there's like a story about that somehow. So I wonder if like he is, he's learning to work through like a lot of relationship karma through some of his family experiences. Right now, Pluto is sitting on his North Node. And so that's about a huge, profound change or transformation as a Scorpio in regards to his home base. But it's in your 7th house. So Pluto's coming into contact with your Lilith, which means that you're getting ready to meet a very Plutonian person. And you meet a Scorpio with Sun, Pluto, Venus conjunct. Here's the challenge. The challenge is that you guys have a Mercury Sun square. So I feel like Mercury and Sag square Sun in Pisces. He can be extremely self-focused with this stellium of planets in Scorpio conjunct Mercury. And you may feel sometimes it's challenging relating and you're more emotional, sensitive, and empathic. And he can be a little bit more like in your face. And I think the South Node Chiron is also talking about healing opportunities. And the North Node Mars makes me feel like it's very sensual. It can be very physical with the two of you guys together, especially because you've got a couple trines between Mars and moons in this chart. I like the synastry. I mean, there isn't much here that I'm not crazy about. I would say maybe the Pluto square Venus, you want to watch for some jealousy, some possessiveness that can come up. There can be some intensity in relationships. You know, 5th house is falling in love and having fun and having a good time. 7th house is commitment. So I look at this as, does it move past just the hooking up, you know, this is exciting and fun phase? Does it evolve eventually into a relationship? We don't know his ascendant, but we'll just say, okay, Scorpio, you know, 4th house for Scorpio is Aquarius, and you have all of these planets in the 4th house. So if he just bought a home, it could be a situation where it's like you're coming in being like, and I'll help you decorate, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, because of all of your Aquarius within the 4th house. And your Mars is there, your moon is there, right? So there can be a sense of you helping him maybe kind of feel like he's making a house a home, right? I like to see the synastry. I think it's, for the most part, pretty positive. I would imagine also, you know, with Uranus, which is right now in opposition to his sun, lots of changes in regards to relationships for him as a Scorpio. There's like people coming in suddenly who might be into astrology, Uranus. And there can also be lots of changes in regards to relationships as Uranus is opposing his Venus. And it's about how he's relating to other people. Venus, Sun, Pluto, and Scorpio can be a little standoffish, or they're a little unsure about opening up because they can be so intense and so passionate and so devoted. Pluto, Venus aspects, Venus and Scorpio can be like until the end of time. And once they really do commit to somebody and they're vulnerable, it's forever. So you might feel like it's just about getting to know him and like opening him up a little bit. But I do think that, you know, the eclipse that's coming for Scorpio Sun in Taurus is putting a huge emphasis on the relationship with other people. So you're kind of catching him at a really interesting point in his life where it's like, boom, Pluto's on his north node, develop a home, create a house, here comes a partner. Right at the tail end of also, you know, you going through all of your Saturn transits, and now Saturn is about to hit your sun. So it can be really talking significantly next year about moving into a dynamic with a relationship where you're really seeing the bigger picture about your values and relationships. You may be considering, you know, committing in a serious way because Saturn rules your relationship house to somebody, and potentially talking about long-term plans and maybe even marriage, because Saturn is going to be in your 9th house. I like it. I'm a sucker for North Node in the 7th. I really like the Venus Pluto. I think that if you guys find when you come together, there's going to be just a lot of sexual chemistry. And the key with the 5th house is not getting super fixated just on that. There needs to be more growth. That's the North Node in the 7th. It's not just about sex. It's about finding your best friend, and the fact that you have somebody who can be complementary and give you the independence that you crave, which I think has been a challenge for you in relationships. You have all those planets in Aquarius square Pluto. There can be too much passion, too much intensity, too much too quick in relationships. You need somebody who's going to give you that freedom, who's going to allow you to still do your thing. So you might be that Uranian person that came into his life. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Lavender. Let us circle back. Let us know how the date goes. All right, cool. So let's see. We're going to do Enchanted Crossroads, Coco, Paula, Tonga, and MV. That's who I've got next. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. Let's see. We got Enchanted Crossroads, who said they were checking in, and that I think they said they would be back. Let's see. All right, so Enchanted says, may not be able to see the live. I do have a question, and I will watch it later. I might be driving. Well, let me tell you what I see in you either way, because I know this eclipse is kind of rocking your chart a little bit here. Oops, there we go. Okay, so on the eclipse side of things, so we've got this lunar eclipse that's coming in Taurus tomorrow. And it's going to be on the cusp of your 2nd house. So the themes are going to be correlating with money, resources, possessions, stability, security, and definitely relating to home, okay? Because moon rules home, and this is about money and resources. So I look at this and I'm like, oh, cost of living increases, making a purchase for the home, bringing some new physical possession into the home, lots changing, revolving around the money you're making and how you feel about it. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it lights your chart up like a Christmas tree, with all these placements that you have in the fixed signs, that when we have eclipses or when we have planets that activate these, it creates the fixed square in your chart. So with that being said, You've got a full moon in opposition to your moon, so it's relational to what you possess versus what other people want. I think of like, yeah, increase of expenses with home, electric costs, energy costs, food costs, but also it can be like insurance related. So things you're having to maybe, you know, pay for that. I'm not sure. And then you're going to see Mercury and Mars. So Mars rules your chart, make an opposition to Jupiter. So it's going to be you being like, okay, this thing happened, this expense came up, or this, you know, potential opportunity to travel or to learn something. And, you know, you're being optimistic about what the future holds and like what the bigger picture is. Buying something, paying for something. It might mean that you spring for, you know, some opportunity to travel or relocate. But that's a really big aspect with Mercury and Mars coming into conjunction. I think the last time I spoke to you, you were talking about there being some change at work. So just hours after the eclipse, Mercury and Mars oppose Jupiter and the moon. It makes me feel like there could be a new work opportunity that could just like pop in out of the blue unexpectedly. And you see a way or an opportunity for making money, or maybe it's just going to be like high demand for services. You know, the 8th house is other people's resources. So with Mercury and Mars there, you might have clients and people who are reaching out being like, hi, I need a reading. Just so everybody knows, like tarot readers and astrologers and psychics and mediums, like during times of eclipses, many of us are so incredibly slammed and inundated with sessions we've already had on the books that when everything comes down during the eclipse, it's really overwhelming for us. So I would imagine you've got some people that are probably reaching out being like, hi, can you talk? When can you talk? So you have an opportunity to have access to resources if you want, but it does seem like they may come very suddenly and very unexpectedly. Just after the eclipse, we are then going to start to see the sun start coming into an opposition with Jupiter as well. So something about this makes me feel like you're like, hey, well, at least I have an opportunity. Like I've got work. Like, do I want to take it? Do I want to do this thing? And at a 10, this is around the beginning of November. It's like, you're like, you know what? I might as well give it a try. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'll give it a shot. And that's also going to start coming into eventually some trines with Neptune. So it might feel like something was like divinely orchestrated to make it possible for you to be able to like do something or work something out or assist somebody, give some kind of feedback or support somebody in some way. What else? And then Mars will also oppose Uranus. And so that's another transit you want to watch. That new moon that's coming in Scorpio, it's going to be at 20 degrees. That'll be around the 13th. And for you, that is going to be exactly in opposition to Uranus, conjunct Mars, and in opposition to Jupiter. November, there's a lot of financial stuff that's going around. Okay, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's about being like you have new opportunities coming in, or you're moving money around, or you're, you know, having access to some like resource. When Mars conjuncts the new moon, it's going to be you going like, okay, I have a new credit card, or I just paid something, or now I have some funds. Lots of money that's being exchanged mid-month. And it just so happens to be in opposition to your Jupiter. So it does make me feel like you're making plans to, you know, to start getting ahead of some financial situations and really be on the up and up with what's going on mid-month, because it looks like there can be a big opportunity that can come through that can definitely provide with some wealth. I think we've spoken about how next year Jupiter and Uranus will sit right in conjunction to your Jupiter. So your Jupiter return might indicate a lot of opportunity in regards to resources, but because you're doing something different, or you have maybe focused more on your business, your private, you know, one-on-one sessions, or maybe you're marketing your business more, and then you see some kind of like opportunity that evolves. So yeah, lots of financial stuff going on for you in this next month. So crazy to also see Pluto coming into conjunction with Mars. I really feel like this is about big changes in your goals, big changes with the people who you associate, particularly your friends, and might be joining new groups or working with new groups of people, which is going to allow you to have an opportunity to drum up new resources. So hopefully that gives you some indication of some of the stuff that's going on. Come back and let me know, because whatever's happening mid-month, you're going to see some potential unexpected kind of breakthrough with resources, okay? Access to other people's stuff. Good luck. We've got Coco, Paula, Tonga, and then MV. Hey, Dana. You can definitely change your question. I will let you know once I get to yours. Yours is gonna be a little bit down the road. Sorry, I did not see your message. All right, so we've got Coco. Okay. Coco says, I have an eviction jury trial on the 16th at 9 a.m. wanting to see if I have any favor in beating my greedy property owner. December 1st, 89. I've been going through it just inside. Oof. Okay, so I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see. So it'll be November 16th. And you said it'll be at 9 a.m. in Los Angeles. Okay, so this will be when the moon is in Capricorn, Sun and Mars are in your 8th house, technically your whole sign 9th. That's a good sign, actually. All right, let's look at let me flip this around. So it'll be Sag rising. Okay, and that'll put the sun conjunct your Mercury. Okay. Let's see. All right, Mercury, Uranus, Moon. Okay, couple things. So I'm looking at the transits. So I have the transits on the inside, and then this is your natal on the outside. Okay, that's what I was comparing. There's a couple things that I can see about this. So first things first, I think of like how, you know, your natal Mercury is coming into conjunction with the ascendant, and it's coming into a square with Neptune. That's technically a part of the whole sign 4th house. So it's literally being like, hi, you're going to leave me homeless. Like I don't know where I'm going to go. Like and that's the case. That's what you're going to be talking about. 2 is we're also going to see that Mercury is going to be right on your sun. So it's at a 9. It is going to be about speaking out, saying what you have to say, the right and the wrong thing to do. You're going to be feeling very vocal, okay? And Mercury and Sag is going to be really quick to like want to get on their soapbox and say what they have to say. My advice is just take a breather. Okay, think about everything before you communicate. I don't know if you're representing yourself or if you have somebody else that's going to be there, but just be mindful, take your time. 2, I also think about the fact that, you know, Mercury is essentially in the 12th. So it does represent needing service, needing resources, needing support. It puts your natal Jupiter on the descendant, so that can be favorable for, you know, dealing with judges. It also puts your natal Venus conjunct the midheaven here. So that's giving you also the opportunity to focus more on, you know, being able to receive benefits and blessings and like support. When I flip it around and we look at the transits in your chart, when this happens, Mercury's in the 9th house, so that's about law and legality. Okay. And we've got your moon transit that's going to be in your 10th house. That's dealing with superiors and getting support from people. So even though the moon's technically moving through a sign, it's not comfortable, it's in its fall, you're still getting support, especially with the sextiles to Saturn. And this is the day that the Sun and Mars are coming into conjunction and being seated. Okay, I have a lawyer, I'm mouthy, I have to be cautious about that. Yeah. Trust me, like this, to me, this makes me feel like your best bet is letting somebody else help you and represent you. Because with Mercury coming out of the square with Saturn and Mercury on your sun, there can be a sense of you being very opinionated just with the transit. And then 2, you're getting ready to see the Sun-Mars conjunction. This is for your whole sign 9th as a Pisces rising, which is about a legal fight. And this is seeding something that down the road is going to be really important because it's going to be about moves and resources. So the other thing I would think about is like, you know, does it buy you more time? Are you able to stay there and buy more time? You know, in 6 months' time after that conjunction, next spring, there could still inevitably be a move. So I think that this might be just like a warning that's like you might be able to stay through the spring, or they might say, hey, you know, we can't raise it until next year. So you might be buying more time before there's a raise or there's a change in your living situation inevitably. It is possible, especially with Jupiter getting ready to go into your 4th house. There is a move on the horizon, but I think that now is not the time. 2, I also would take into consideration the oppositions to planets in your 2nd house is cost of living. So if you're like, hey, I've lived here for X amount of years and, you know, you're putting me out and you're evicting me, you're not giving me enough time, you're going to probably benefit by talking to your attorney about whether or not you can countersue, or if you have any way of being able to prove that, you know, they're creating excess fees for having to take time off for work, for having to find a place short notice, for finding a place that's probably going to be a lot more expensive. It may benefit you, you know, to do that. So that way, inevitably, whether you have to move now or later, you're negotiating to be able to reach a settlement or being able to get funds to be able to move. It's crazy. I'm hearing so much of this about people who are in LA right now. It's like insane. So many people are telling me they're going through this with landlords. And I think you got a lot of people who are obviously, yeah, okay, greedy, but also getting over their heads on mortgages and other things. And it's a tricky situation. Moves are really going to be more connecting to either your whole sign 3rd, so Venus, or your 4th house. So I think about how, you know, you are going to see Mars conjunct Venus. That's going to be taking place around the new year. I think about how Jupiter and Uranus are going to meet in your whole sign 3rd. So there could be a move in the spring and Jupiter is going to go into the 4th. So you're buying time. That's how I want you to look at it, as much as I hate to say it. So if you are inevitably going to have to move, it's about really making sure that your rights are protected. And if they are paying you to potentially leave, you have to get your money's worth, because you know wherever you're going, it's either going to be more costly or it's going to cost to actually move, right? But this is also Neptune's coming into a square with your IC. So there is a sense of being like, where am I supposed to go? What is the next step? Well, you want to look at your Mercury, right? And so you're going to have Mercury retrograde over your natal Mercury coming up here pretty soon. So Mercury is going to enter shadow around the 25th. We're going to see a full moon that will be in Gemini on the 27th. And that full moon is going to oppose your sun, square Saturn. So you're going to know whether or not you have to be moving like right around the end of November. But this is going to be while Mercury is retrograde. So it is likely there is potentially still some kind of like legal suit going on, and either having to refile something, or they're trying to speed something up and you're trying to see it all the way through. I mean, if you end up going to court, like trial, if it gets extended for whatever reason, it's also going to buy you more time. But I'm looking at this new moon on the 12th of December. That's right in conjunction to Mercury, which is the ruler of your 4th house, square Neptune. So if you're moving, you're not going to be probably doing this until closer to the end of December. I don't know what the timeline was, but yeah, I feel like if you can really prove that they're not only putting you out, but the extra costs relating to this, you may have a case and you may be able to negotiate like a settlement. Money that you receive from other people is going to be more relating to the 8th house, where you're having these south node eclipses. So you would need to see something that activates that. And I feel like if this drags out long enough, you might be able to negotiate with them. It is possible if they really want to get you out and flip the place or raise the rent. But sooner or later, you will have to move one way or another. And it's going to be between 1 or 2 places. So in the off chance you do need to move, right, if that does come up, be mindful that with the transits in Capricorn that are going to be happening, it looks like you could either have like a flex space or a temporary space until you get better situated in the new year. So anytime between, I would say, like April and July, that's a better time for like doing something that's more permanent. But you're going to have to stay flexible with some of the stuff that's kind of coming. So do what you can, I would say, to try to speak your piece, but let your attorney talk for you. But the chart, the timing is impeccable. I mean, it talks literally about being like, you're going to displace me. And perhaps maybe other people would side with you because of that. My advice is get a brown candle, get a court candle. Burn it on a Saturday, right? That's what I would do. And you can pick that up at like a Botanica. You can even get like some like Little John root that can help as well, or court case, you know, oil. But brown candles are really helpful for court cases. Please come back. Let us know what happens. Please. We're sending you lots of good vibes in the midst of that. Nobody wants to be displaced. I've got Paula, Tonga, MV. You're welcome. I know some people are asking. I'm going to give you guys the list in just a second. I'm just going through the level 3 peeps. Am I missing any other level 3 people? Why do I feel like somebody else popped in here? Maybe not. Okay, Paula. Did you have a question, Paula? Idea is a couple of the mentors are into the same stuff as me. 2 days after the session, I see they took a couple of my ideas and started doing them. I want to know if I have anything to worry about. Oh, okay. Let's make this, there we go. Okay. December 9th. Okay, so my question is, I'm taking a mentor training course with Community Futures. Anyways, we had to do a matchup session. In the matchup session, we had to discuss our idea and a couple of, okay, got it. So do you have anything to worry about them taking some of this stuff? Well, mentors is going to be your 9th house. Let's change this chart around a little bit because it's a little skewed. Give me 1 second here. Let's make this equal. There we go. All right, so mentors is going to be connected to your 9th house where Saturn is, and it is getting ready to station here at the beginning of November. For me, this would be like Mars-Neptune squares or Mercury-Neptune squares. And do I think you have reason to worry? No, but something that we are going to see here the second half of November is we're going to see a number of planets ingress into Sagittarius. Okay, so for you, that's relationships with other people, but it is in the 6th house. So it's about, you know, people who potentially could be causing some issues or issues with coworkers or, you know, scheduling related things. And Mercury rules your chart. So when Mercury is in Sagittarius, it's in its fall and it's coming into a square with Saturn. So here's what I think. I feel like other people would come or go to bat for you if you feel like other people are like taking your ideas. Like I feel like other people would be like, wait a second, didn't Paula say this? Because this is about other people who are challenging the mentor, other people who are there. I also feel like with Mercury, which is your chart ruler, square Saturn, somewhere around mid-November, if anything comes up, like you'd call them on it. And then you're going to have Mars and the Sun come into a square with Saturn as well. So Mars will square here. So first the Sun on the 22nd, and then you're going to have Mars around the 24th. The 3rd week of November. I do feel like it could represent a situation where they're wanting to work with you on something. Like when you said that you feel like they took some of your ideas, perhaps maybe you bring it up the next time you're around them and you're like, yeah, I know, I that's what I was saying. And they might go, oh, do you want to work together? Because Sagittarius has the superior, you know, angle to Saturn here. It's closing in on Saturn. So it's challenging the teacher. So maybe you feel like you have to stand your ground, or maybe you have to say, hey, that was my idea, or you know, you have to include me, or, you know, like that's something that I came up with. But I do see it being something that is like, you know, you can work through it. I also feel like with the sextiles to Uranus, you have the opportunity to still kind of keep the peace with groups of other people. It usually isn't like, unless you have like a hard Mercury-Saturn conjunction. You know, the square could be a challenge, but if, and this is a big if, you were going to have like real problems with a teacher, I would assume it would be like when you have a conjunction to Saturn. So like when Mercury and the Sun and Saturn are coming into conjunction the end of February 2024, that would be more concerning for me. Because it can indicate that, you know, there is some kind of issue that's brewing between you and another person, and not necessarily seeing eye to eye, but at the same time, it's going to trine all your planets in Scorpio. So I do feel like, you know, part of what you're learning with Saturn going through your 10th house is that Saturn is going to be squaring your Sun, and it's going to be you going, am I going to let other people take credit for the things that I'm doing? Am I going to let other people kind of steal my spotlight, or, you know, my moment, or am I going to step up and kind of like be a leader? And so you may feel like it requires you to challenge others, but I don't really see a lot of that potentially happening until next spring. And that's a big if. Sixth house, some astrologers would say, you know, these are people that can be, you know, enemies. So with Mercury and Mars being there, don't let it turn into a bit of like a scuffle. You know, just be really Sagittarian about it and be like, yeah, I brought that up. That was my idea. That's what I was talking about. And then, you know, kind of go from there, see what they say. And it's about also, I think, team building. You know, the sixth house can be talking about how can we all be of service? How can we all help people? Rather than getting kind of caught up in, oh, well, I'm calling the shots. You know, Saturn in the 9th house can be somebody who's like, no, I lead, you listen to me. I would be like, yeah, but that was my idea. But I don't really see any issues here. Watch more in the spring of next year. And I think with Mercury, Mars, and the Sun, it's about you really growing from this potential program and this collaboration with other people, and really taking strides to kind of like go out on your own, right? With this eclipse, my dear, I think I told you recently, but it's very, very, very close to your moon, and it's going to oppose Venus. We're going to see Mercury, Mars stuff opposing Venus. So that can also bring up some relational issues. Just a heads up. So be mindful. It's in the air, the 28th and the 29th, okay? In particular, because you're going to see Mercury and Mars, boom, oppose your moon. So relationships with women in particular, female relatives, you know, female family members, yeah, can be a little irritating for you. So just be mindful of that. Let me know how it goes, but try to take the Sagittarius higher path. You know, don't let other people pull any funny stuff. Let's see, we got Tonga. Is this right, Tonga? I want to make sure. The February 20th, 75. I gotta scroll up here. Thank you guys for your patience. It'll be Tonga and then MV. And is there any other level 3 people? If not, let me know. Then I'm gonna move on to the list, and I will definitely give you guys roll call. Don't worry. 220, yes. Okay, Tonga, let me know your question, please. I would appreciate it. There we go. You're welcome, Paula. I'd like to know what I should be aware of for this eclipse and the new moon in Scorpio. Well, they're kind of interconnected, you know, in a weird way. Because we have this eclipse that's conjunct Jupiter opposed Mercury and Mars. We're like, oh my God, this situation's kind of like really big, or there's something that's evolving. We're figuring out some situation or the truth of the matter. And then in 2 weeks, we have a new moon conjunct Mars, which is like go time, okay? So for you, you are a late degree Capricorn. So yes, you're a Capricorn. Saturn is your keeper. But for the sake of this, you may benefit from listening also to Aquarius. Okay, so stay with me. Hopefully this makes sense. You're going to have the eclipse coming in for you tomorrow, and that's going to be in Taurus in your 4th house. Okay, on the cusp of your 5th. So Placidus, you guys know I'm Placidus queen. It's going to be more relating to communications, ideas, you know, neighbors, your neighborhood, transportation, documents. And conjunct Jupiter makes me feel like it can be about making plans to go and do something fun. It can be about potentially moving. It can be about themes revolving around gadgets, road trips. You know, Jupiter for you might represent, yeah, some opportunity to be exploring a new part of town. For the most part, for like a Capricorn rising and a Pisces, it's a lot easier for you. It's a little bit more friendly with your chart. It's not really making any harsh aspects to anything that I can see. So in that sense, it's pretty darn good. Maybe the slight square to Mercury can represent some communication challenges, but for the most part, this is a pretty easy eclipse. You're going to hear for Capricorn that it's relating to like romance, creativity, self-expression. I think this is just about finding ways to be able to plan something fun. I think this might also be about big breakthroughs in terms of communication or thinking, right? It's the second one that's really going to kind of get your goat. Pun intended, because you're a Capricorn rising. This one's the one that's a little bit more tricky, okay? So this new moon in Scorpio is technically in your 10th house Placidus. And it's your 11th house whole sign. So it's like group building exercises or lots of things changing, revolving around the groups of people at work or within your community. Your responsibility to other people, for other people. Conjunct Mars. So it's going to be suddenly being like, okay, I got to be helping a group of people at home or having meetings with people, you know, at work suddenly. And this particular new moon will be in direct opposition to Uranus. So for everybody, it's going to be like, oh, shift. This is happening. What do we do? What is Mars? Mars represents action, activity, volatility, attacks, anger, frustration, and it's in the sign of Scorpio. So really, I see this as like lots of changes at work. We could see this as like a new moon with Mars where it's like you're hearing that people are quitting, they're getting laid off. That could happen. You could hear that there is lots of changes going on with a friend or friend groups, or a friend is suddenly in need in some way. That could happen because it is a part of your 11th house whole sign. Outside of the opposition to Uranus, it does sextile your ascendant and Pluto, so you're prepared for the change. It does sextile Mars, so you are going to be in prevention mode, crisis prevention mode. And it is going to trine your Jupiter and also your Venus. Neptune and Venus is getting really close. So to me, it's looking like maybe you're coming to a point when it comes to your finances or your resources where you're like, I want to make money in a way that feels fulfilling. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to do something more creative or something that helps people or something that's more spiritual. So if you're like, I want to set new intentions for my goals, for my career, for my responsibility out in the world, this is a good moon to do it. And even in spite of me being like, this is a more difficult moon, sextile, trine, trine, it's still easier. But in my opinion, water trines from the 10th to the 2nd house is like, how do you feel out in the world? How do you feel in positions of authority? How do you feel at work? How are things going with the relationship with bosses? And Scorpio is all about change. So for me, I have been looking at this new moon pretty much all year being like, okay, mid-November is when I'm like, okay, that's when I'm going to make all the big commitments to change, because I know that's when it's really going to stick. And you got to think about, this is around 21 degrees, which is the opposition of Uranus, and Jupiter and Uranus will be in this degree next year. So think about where you want to be in spring of 2024. You take the actions here. So when you get that full moon next year, that's when it can kind of come full circle, right? Easier. But if you're, planning things, you're doing something fun for Halloween, awesome, eclipse in your 5th house. And it can be with friends, with younger people, it can be with kids. And then this one makes me feel like it's like, okay, we've had the partying, back to work. Really, really grinding things out for the better part of the rest of the year, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. And if you're a coach, sun, you know, and moon and Mars and Mercury in your 10th house for a new moon. It's like, that's such an awesome manifesting moon for work. And I see like sun and Mars and moon is like tough love, you know, getting down and dirty with the things that you've been resisting or afraid of doing, or the things that you know, haven't made the time to do. And then suddenly you're like, okay, I've got the time to do it, right? Perfect. So good with a new moon. Hopefully that sheds some light on what you got going on. Thank you for popping in. Let us know. Circle back. You guys can always come back to these readings and let me know what happens. We've got MV. What's up, MV? I hope you're doing well. Let's see. Where is your question? Where was that? There we go. Do the stars and planets have good advice for me on how to make my will, confidence, and self-love stronger? I'll have to watch later. Thanks in advance. I like that. Good questions. Self-love, very, very sun-related topic, because the sun rules your second house. Self-esteem, self-love is 5th house. So we've got your 2nd house lord and your 5th house lord coming into conjunction on top of your Venus. I guess it was in the stars, right? And Pluto. Really for me, Venus and Pluto connecting to the 1st house with these transits are how much or how far are you willing to go, right? What work are you willing to do? What are you willing to finally deal with, acknowledge, work through, remove, cut away, if it's something that is not actually making you feel good, right? So for Virgos, you know, Scorpio season, Sun, Mercury, Mars going through this 3rd house to their sun represents empowerment through communication and through thought. But in your 5th house, it's like, I need you to sit down, make time to pull out a notebook daily and write down the 3 things that you love about yourself, or the 3 things that you are really focused on changing or transforming so you can have a better relationship with yourself, right? Neptune's in opposition to Mars right now, so there can be a sense of maybe not feeling like you're always seeing yourself so clearly, or not giving yourself credit for the things that you should, or not seeing yourself for all of the things that you offer and that you bring to the table. There can be doubt with Mars, Neptune, or loss of faith maybe. But really Scorpio season with Mercury, Mars, and the sun moving into the 5th, trining the ascendant, you're tapping into the heart space, what your true talents are, what makes you so lovable. And then it's going to try Neptune, which means other people might be picking up on that as well. It might also be like a practice or a faith practice or a meditation or something that you're doing that's kind of helping you keep the faith. I also feel like the 5th house is like about, I mean, it is about self-love. So, you know, Mercury, the sun, and Mars and Scorpio can be very intense self-love, right? Being like really pumping yourself up, right? Like, you know, maybe it means that you need to stand in front of the mirror and you need to say a mantra. Maybe it means that you need to take yourself on a date. Maybe it means that you need to be making a list of all the things that you love about yourself, even if it's scary and you feel kind of weird and funky like doing that, right? Because Scorpios sometimes we're afraid to kind of go. There's a storyline about this last summer, having had Venus go retrograde on your South Node. And I think it's been about becoming aware of where you haven't been feeling yourself or feeling as confident. And maybe that's led to a lack of willingness to connect to other people, or maybe a lack of resources, or, you know, doubt, or changes in regards to your self-esteem. So now that you're done with that retrograde and Venus is now coming over your sun and over your Mars, once again, writing things down, speaking things into fruition, telling yourself, you know, like how amazing you are. Like you have to be your own hype man, basically. You got a double kind of Mercury energy, Mercury in the 5th, and then Venus on your sun and your Mars in your 3rd house. Like, I want you to get into the habit of regularly speaking kindly to yourself and doing it on a daily basis. And it sounds silly, but that's what's really going to help you kind of move through this. I also think Venus going through Virgo and coming into some trines with Pluto, that self-love and that empowerment might catch the attention of other people who only like double down and they reconfirm that for you, right? And sure, Capricorn could be people at work, it could be older people, it could be parents, you know, it could be your grandma that's like, I think you're amazing, but whatever, you know, you're gonna get what you need in the process of this. In the background, I also think about how, you know, Uranus is coming into a square with your nodes. So you're born in September of 89. I've got Uranus square my nodes right now. You're about a month or two older than me. So things get real fun when Uranus starts to square the nodes, because then you're like, shit, I have to change this thing and I don't want to change this thing. What do I do? For you, Uranus is about making changes with the friends and the socializing that you have, with the networks and the communities and the groups that you have. It's about embracing friends that kind of fly their freak flag. Like, I think of like Taurus in the 11th house, they're like all these like mad scientist friends and people who are gardeners and painters and sculptors and beauticians and people who are into metaphysics and crystals and astrology. Like, go and find your people. That's what you really want to be doing right now throughout this square, because in the midst of that square, which is forcing you to make changes in your goals and finding people who are going to be maybe building you up or adding more value to your life, not making you doubt yourself and sacrifice, and also helping you reach the North Node of like making changes with friends, North Node in Aquarius in the 8th, and friends who are generous and people who give. People who give back, rather than being in relationships or connections to people socially who make you doubt yourself or who aren't giving you that validation, right? That aren't including you. So the next like year or two, you really want to work with Jupiter and Uranus in your 11th. And I would say like find your tribe, right? Go and find people who are interested in what you're interested in. All those planets are going to trine your Sun and your Mars, and you're going to find that you can join groups and associations and meet people who want to talk about the things that you want to talk about, who want to travel, who want to do things. Like, it's really going to broaden your horizons. And finally, Saturn's going to come up off your moon also in the new year as well. And that's a heavy transit. I mean, the moon rules your chart. You know, moon in Pisces is very sensitive, very empathic. Saturn is a depressant. So Saturn on the moon is, you know, who loves me or who is not giving me what I need. And as Saturn leaves your moon, it'll start trining your Jupiter and your Chiron, and you're going to feel things kind of ease up a little bit. So yoga can be really helpful with Saturn on the moon, reducing red meat, you know, trying to practice meditation, having appreciation for that alone time. Because maybe what you're realizing is that it's a matter of going and building yourself up and letting that radiate outwards. And, you know, the people who start to kind of pick up on that change in you might be people who are better, you know, suited to be networking and socializing with, right? But yeah, it's there. I love the stellium of planets in the 5th house for Cancer risings. It's like so great for like creativity, love, sex, romance. It's like a very fun time, especially in mid-November. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you. What's up, Alex? Hey, Gibson. And what's up, S? Happy Friday. Thanks for watching. All right, so I think we got all the level 3 people. Now you guys know why it pays to be a level 3 member. You get a reading every month, and it's cheaper than buying a reading, believe it or not, and you get seen first. So there is your incentive to consider joining memberships. All right, so I'm going to give you guys roll call. I'm going to let you know who I have next. Thank you so much for your patience. How are you guys doing? Are you guys hanging out with snacks on the couch and your favorite cocktails? All right, so here's who I have next. So we have Claire, Fiorella, Maritza, Heather, Dorothy, Muriel, Trudy, JMA, Samantha, MYSA, Rachel, Deanna, and Fatin. Am I saying that correct? All right, well, we got some people to move through. So let's switch on over to Claire. Let's see, let me open this up. So we've got Claire. And Claire also had Jason. Where was that? I'll just plug it in. It was September 28th, 1969. (10:29 p.m.) And that was in, there we go. Okay. Michelle, let me know. Oh, I've got you here. Yeah, you're on here too. You sent yours via email. I've got you. You're actually the next. Okay, so we've got Claire, who is March 16th, 75. And she is a Scorpio rising, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Taurus. And she wants to know about Jason, who's born on September 28th, 69 at 10:29 p.m. Okay, so she says, here's our info. What's going on? I'm feeling very confused. All right, let's take a look. Well, a couple things. Scorpio rising, and you're getting ready to have an eclipse conjunct your descendant. Okay, so conjunct your descendant. So this is about completions, conclusions, big things happening that are becoming amplified with Jupiter on your descendant. So challenges maybe to relationships, challenges to relating to other people. Your moon is in Taurus, so it's a part of your lunar return. So the events of like the next, let's say 48 hours, but especially the next month is going to be playing out, putting a huge emphasis on relationships to other people. Two is that you also have all these planets that are in Scorpio in the first house. So you're going to see Mercury, Sun, Mars all in the first house, and it's going to be making oppositions to your seventh house where your buddy Jason has his moon and Saturn. So it may feel like there is like a little bit more focus on yourself or maybe challenges relating to other people or partners. To be honest with you, your guys' synastry isn't all that bad. We've got another Saturn on the descendant, so that can represent kind of commitment or binding. Moon is there, good for relating. North Node Sun, good for relationship, but I think also home space, private life together. It's on the 4th. You guys have some, I think, challenges maybe revolving around the Sun Pluto. So it looks like Jason's got Uranus and Pluto and Mercury and Jupiter all in Libra. So for a Scorpio rising chart, it can feel like it's a bit of a blind spot or like there's some karma that you guys are still kind of, wrapping up or kind of playing out. And it's behind the scenes because it's 12th house to the ascendant whole sign. So the question is like, this is all in the 11th house. So has the relationship been defined outside of being a friendship? Like, have you guys had an understanding that this is like a together thing? Because I could see there being some question marks with South Node eclipses in Libra going through your 11th house, and you've got an individual who has a lot of Libra that's like, are we working? Are we not? Are we friends? Like, what are we doing here? And, Jason is a Libra and currently has Saturn in opposition to his Venus. So that's been playing out all year. So maybe there's been some distance or some timing issues or keeping somebody kind of at a safe distance. Saturn will continue to make oppositions to his Venus, into the new year. I, for one, think that the Sun-Pluto stuff is very interesting because, the Pluto person can come in and there can be a very strong magnetic pull, but there can also be this feeling that's like, you know, them teaching you to get in touch with your shadow, or teaching you to heal, or, you know, make changes in regards to your, you know, Libra related themes, you know, karma and relationships. He's got this Sun, Uranus, Mercury. So he's a little bit of a, like a live wire. Like you might feel like he's indecisive, or he changes his mind a lot, or that there is a sense of he goes left and then he goes right. And all of this is in opposition to Chiron and Aries. So he's got a signature in his chart of having, you know, time maybe to himself and keeping some people at a safe distance. And he can kind of make people feel like a little bit distanced from him. Hello. Especially with Mars creating that square as well. Let's flip this around really quick. There we go. So he's a Cancer rising. And look, there's that 11th house stuff again. So I'm wondering, when you come back and you watch this, my question is has the relationship been defined? Because this keeps coming back up over and over. Your Pluto sits in his 5th, and you have got Lilith North Node, so that can be a really strong attraction and pull. I think about how Saturn rules his 7th house, and currently Saturn is going through Pisces here technically in his 10th, and it's opposing Venus. So once again, relationship being at a distance, you know, having some physical space or some space in regards to trying to figure out what he wants. There's going to be a retrograde that's going to happen right along his descendant. You're going to see in mid-December, Mercury will turn retrograde and come into conjunction with Mars. So there can be a reevaluating or reconnecting and trying to figure out whether or not like the relationship is going to like work. Let's see. Yeah, Saturn's coming up on your composite descendant. And it's on your Juno in December, and then it's going to sit on your descendant. So it looks like kind of like the end of December through the better part of, let's say, end of February, trying to figure out whether or not y'all are going to work. Do you guys like live separate from each other or further away from each other? Because this Jupiter-Mars stuff is in opposition to the moon. So it does seem like the eclipse is triggering a conversation that you guys are going to need to have that's like, what are we doing? You know, Jupiter rules relationship. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so you've got Jupiter on your moon. So at the very least, it's about emotionally relating, but I'm wondering, like, is somebody having to move for the other person? What's the deal here? South Node coming in conjunction with your composite Uranus. There need to be some significant changes going on in this relationship in regards to your values, and I think better defining what it is that both of you guys are looking for with Saturn trine Venus. I hope this is not like a situationship, honestly, because if one person can't like really, you know, focus on being like, yes, you know, I'm ready, then the other person's gonna be like, what the hell are we doing? And I personally don't really think it's you. I think it's him. Yeah, I think it's him because he's got the eclipses in the 5th house. And so maybe it's like he's having to learn to like let go of his own selfish needs and desires, right? Or the tendency to kind of keep things loose with dating and focus more on the goals in regards to integrating more of his social life and his relationships, because Mars is the ruler. But I would be watching mid-December through the new year. There's going to be some back and forth and talking more about where things are going. But sometimes an eclipse on your descendant will quite literally bring some situation up outside of you. So, you know, Jupiter's going to hang around that 5 degrees until, you know, mid-December through the new year. So it is possible that Jupiter will retrograde on your descendant. At a 10, it means working through challenges in relationship. It goes direct, it's conjunct your moon, and then it's going to hit your descendant. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, Jupiter in the 7th house in a woman's chart is like man buffet. Jupiter conjunct Juno, also really great in terms of bringing in partnerships. Jupiter conjunct your moon, triggering your 9th house of like, you know, could be a second husband, could be a relationship at a distance. I really don't feel like you're going to have any issues, you know, bringing somebody in. It's going to be, is it the right person? And I think now that you're finally coming out of Pluto square Venus, you're asking yourself, am I giving too much in love? Am I getting enough back? Do I have somebody who's a team player? And am I with somebody who's like really ready to grow the way that I want to? Obviously, you're really creative and probably really romantic with that Sun, Jupiter in your 5th house whole sign. So I think you need somebody who can really kind of play on that and like help create this relationship that's not just fantasy, it's also like making moves, because Jupiter and Uranus are on the move in your 7th house. When that comes into conjunction, you may find that there is like a sudden development of a relationship very suddenly, unexpectedly, right? Especially like March through July of next year. So if it's not this person, it's going to be somebody. Good luck, Claire. I hope that that's helpful. All right, so I know I have Michelle, and I got your email. Let's see, it was Michelle P. There we go. She said, I purchased and I didn't see a section to add my birth information. I got you 9/18/68, 3:05 p.m. Let me fix this. There we go. Okay, so I hope you get this in time. Question is a new lover coming? I like these questions. I'm at a flirty stage with someone. I haven't had a single date in 9 years. I'm so ready for romance. Well, I mean, hello, eclipse coming into your whole sign 5th house. I would say that's very possible. I mean, you know, having an eclipse as a Capricorn rising, you're going to hear that it's in your 5th house of romance, creativity, and fun. So it's very possible. However, in your Placidus chart, it's closer to your 4th house. So it's more kind of like bringing love home, getting to know somebody, you know, spending time, making somebody dinner, like romancing kind of behind the scenes. There's some other stuff I can see here, though. You know, you had an eclipse conjunct your Venus 2 weeks ago, which is also setting the stage for new opportunities for status and relationships. And your Venus is at a 9, so in the 9th. So it can be somebody at a distance. There's somebody who's culturally different. I also think about how, you know, you're going to see Jupiter and Uranus enter into your 5th house next year in the spring. And you're going to have a full moon in Gemini in the 2nd half of November. So more like mid-November on, I could see more going on there. The moon rules your relationships. And so something that you're going to be seeing is planets are now coming into a square with your moon. So it's basically saying, okay, now we got to go out. We got to socialize. We got to have fun. We got to meet people. Oh my God, I love that. I met him at my mother's house, and the eclipse is connected to romance, but it's in the 4th house. So are you bringing him back home to mom? That's the question. I love that. And your moon's in the 7th. So maybe it's about mom having a relationship with them. You never know. But, you know, you see big stuff happen when things happen with your moon. And so you've got planets square your moon. So now you got to meet outside of like a home base situation. Now you got to get out there and see if you like each other, like out in the wild. I would say when planets are trining your moon, like when we start to see like Mars and the sun trining your moon, that's more relationship-y, the end of November. So like maybe give it the month. And then, like I said, when you have full moons connecting to your 5th house, the one that you're going to have in November. And then you will also have a full moon in Cancer, which looks like it's going to be right along your descendant. And that is going to trine Saturn. So I would give it to about the end of the year. You got to feel it out first, you know? Good night. Those of you guys who aren't aware, that's my dad. He likes to hang out in the chat. I think that the Venus sextile Pluto, and I think the full moon that's going to be, you know, making a trine to Saturn, which can be used like whether or not you want it. You might be having a conversation right about the end of the year. But the other thing to think about is you also had an eclipse on your Venus. So it's like bringing somebody in that you probably didn't see coming, and then the South Node's going to hit your Venus. So you're kind of like test driving this out between now and the new year, When South Node hits Venus, if you want to dump something that isn't working for you, you can. Okay, I'm not saying you should, but you can. And I think Capricorn season, December into January, is a lot of like, what is best for Michelle? What does Michelle want? Outside of other people. And then you're going to have a whole stellium of planets coming into Aquarius in the new year. So it is going to be whether or not other people are going to give you the freedom that you're seeking, right? Venus conjunct Jupiter. Yeah, but I mean, that's happening today. So you need to see stuff with the moon. That's what I can tell you. When you have the eclipse with Jupiter, you know, tomorrow, the next 48 hours or so is great. Jupiter's going to reactivate that until, you know, mid-January. So that's basically saying opportunities for romance really can evolve all the way until the new year, right? And maybe this is also going to be, you know, the effects of the Venus retrograde. I mean, you had a Venus retrograde this summer happening in your 7th house. It went over Mars, which is your whole sign 4th house ruler, and your moon, which is your mom. It brought you back home to mom. You met someone. So sometimes retrogrades are good, right? Retrogrades can bring in karmic partners and people who were meant to meet. But for like long-term relationship stability, we got to see some positive aspects between, you know, outer planets and our 7th house lord. So I think Jupiter squaring your moon is probably going to be about being like, okay, you know, asking mom or other female relatives or female friends, what do you think of it? You know, I mean, probably the sign, the rising sign that has the best opportunity for romance and spontaneity and having fun is a Capricorn rising, because Jupiter and Uranus are in your 5th house. Maybe second to Scorpio rising, right? Yeah, you met him then. So, I mean, retrogrades in the 7th house will bring in soulmates, 100%. Maybe not Mercury retrogrades, Mars retrogrades, Venus retrogrades, Saturn retrogrades. So, you know, that retrograde took a long time to come out of squares with Uranus. So maybe there could have been a sense of like feeling it out. But I mean, I think it's great. Until you see Saturn quincunx your moon, you can continue to stay in this connection unless you feel like you went out of it in January. When Saturn starts quincunxing your moon, this will be in March, it'll be like, yeah, this is great. Where's it going? Because you have eclipses in your 4th house, the North Node's in your 4th house. You want to play house. You want to figure out, you know, how you can experience more time at home with, maybe with yourself, but also there can be a sense of wanting to bring somebody in to do that with, right? And being a 7th house moon, this is not your first rodeo. So maybe you haven't had a relationship in a while, but usually Venus in Libra, 7th house moon, these people are very relationship oriented. And I like that you have all these planets in Virgo and Saturn is starting to come into an opposition. The next phase is going to be talking about how do I build with a partner and what do I, you know, put into it and what do I get out of it? And there can be lots of talking about long-term commitments and also like finances and your values in relationships too, right? But yeah, March is like I'm not going to say the cutoff, but it's like, if you guys are living in 2 different places, it's like, okay, where are we going? You know, what are we doing here? And when Saturn quincunxes the moon, it's like, are you moving? Where are you living? Because the moon is in the 7th house. He's talking about moving in March. Maybe come back for a Synastry reading. I'm very curious to see Saturn and Neptune oppose your sun. Because it's, you know, I would be like, what's your financial situation? What's your credit score? Like, do you have your habits and your life together? I mean, it's a very practical. Saturn in the 2nd is asking all of the questions that you need to ask about their situation. So you figure out if you guys are on the same page in terms of what your goals are within life, because 2nd house is your money, 8th house is theirs. So you'll see a lot of these activations taking place here. I love that you had an eclipse on your Venus and somebody like popped in, or maybe there was this shift and you're like, okay, now I'm ready, right? But yeah, we have to look at outer planets. So you want to see outer planets to your moon. And next year, Jupiter is going to continue to keep squaring your moon up until about March. And then we're going to see Jupiter start sextiling in your moon. So really, like, May through next summer is like on like Donkey Kong. Like there's a lot more going on with Jupiter sextile your moon, because then it's like, oh, are we doing this? Are you moving? What's going on here? Right? I like it. Come back, let me know what happens. I mean, I think it's so karmic. You had a Venus retrograde right over your Mars. So it was supposed to be bringing somebody in that you didn't see, that kind of like changes your whole perspective on things. How cool that that literally came through your mom. Mars is your home base. That's awesome. Does mom like him? She must, if you guys keep meeting up at mom's house, unless she's feeding him, right? Hopefully that's helpful, Michelle. I have Fiorella, am I saying that correctly? Maritza, Heather, and Dorothy. You guys are all on deck. You're very welcome. All right, so here we go. So I've got you here October 3rd, 94 at 6:30 a.m. Welcome back. It's nice to see you again. In Puerto Rico, I'm unsure if I need to ask a question, but maybe just anything to do with love that you see, whatever you see that is super significant. Fio. Okay, got it. Well, let's see here. So we got a Libra rising chart. We've got an eclipse in your 7th. Hey. I love how the moon is conjunct the North Node right now. And this is about you meeting with your astrologer. That's cool. Well, a couple things. Like, you know, in terms of love, right? So Venus rules your chart. Your Libra sun, Libra rising. Venus was retrograde in the 11th house, and it was creating a lot of squares in your chart, and it was trying to get you to think about, well, what is it that I want to create? What do I want to possess? What do I want out of life? How can I make more money? What can I find in terms of relationships? And it might have felt like you were at like a turning point. Then you saw Venus go into your 12th house, which has been kind of more behind the scenes, maybe healing. Right now, as we speak, Venus is actually conjunct your Chiron. So with the moon Chiron conjunction, have you been like resting, recuperating? Have you felt like you're keeping to yourself more? Is there a sense of you kind of hiding out a little bit? What's going on here? Because this is about healing something. It can be physical, by the way, you know, because Venus in the 12th can be about like resting and recuperating. Maybe having some changes in your sleep patterns, needing more sleep. I speak as a Libra rising. That's definitely been the case. But love is going to be a combination of Mars, and it's going to be a combination of your 7th house. So let's talk positives, right? Positives is tomorrow you have an eclipse technically in your positive 7th house, conjunct Jupiter, which means like there's something positive on the horizon coming in regards to relationships. It can mean that you finally get closure, you release, or you let go of something or someone. That is possible. It can mean that it is setting the stage for bringing somebody in, because Jupiter is going to retrograde back to 5 degrees in mid-December and hang out here until mid-January. So if you're like not ready yet, like look, next month, you know, Venus is going to go into Libra. It's going to sit on your ascendant. I think you're going to be feeling a little bit more willing to interact with people and feeling a little bit more social, and you're definitely going to attract people. The challenge here is that Mars rules your 7th house, and you have Mars in Cancer at a critical degree. So as of spring of this year, Pluto started opposing Mars, which means you probably started feeling uncomfortable, maybe feeling like you need to break with the past, make changes at home. Maybe you're feeling like you need to kind of break free of an old relationship. Maybe you're also considering changes at home or in regards to your work situation. Over the past month, I've been going out more, making more friends. Cool. I love that. I think that, you know, until Pluto comes out of an opposition with your Mars, there can be this feeling of like having to work hard to cut ties with the past or make changes in your home life, so that way you can better embrace a new future with a relationship. Libra risings have really good karma right now with relationships because of eclipses in the 7th house. So it's bringing in new people. So socializing, making friends, dating, all that stuff. I feel like also you're in your Saturn return. So, you know, your Saturn return looks like it's wrapping up here at the end of January, beginning of February of 2024. Saturn in the 5th house can be about self-love, you know, dating yourself, treating yourself well, figuring out what you need. And so you might see something really significant emerge at the end of January through about May of 2024, when a bunch of planets go into your 5th house of dating and true love, and then you have more eclipses in your 7th house. So there's something going on there that makes me feel like the more that you're getting in tune with what makes you happy and what you need, the more likelihood you're going to meet someone. Now, Mars being at a critical degree in the 10th house means that you may meet them through a professional setting. So if you have some changes at work or your career goals change in some way, something can be shifting there that can make it more likely or more possible for you to meet someone. So if you start getting this feeling of like, oh, I want to change jobs, or I want to go out for this new position, or, you know, hopefully I'm getting a raise, or I'm going to a new department, or some change at work can lead to a new relationship as well. But Pluto's going to make an opposition there for some time. So it's going to start to move away in January. So I like that Pluto moves out of an opposition with Mars. Your Saturn return starts wrapping up. You're feeling like you're kind of, you know, getting in the swing of things better. And then you're going to have eclipses happening in your 7th house. Here's my prediction. From, let's say, the end of March of 2024 through round about the end of May of 2024, likely somebody is showing up. That's what I think, because I can see it with all the things that are getting activated. Next year, you move into a 7th house annual perfection year when you have your birthday. So it's going to be all about your relationships. And there's going to be something that's really probably pretty significant. I think that's going to be emerging at the beginning of 2025 that can be more commitment oriented for the most part. But you have to wait until Pluto comes out of an opposition with your Mars. I work in fashion designer and no man has ever met, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Well, I mean, Mars at 29 degrees can be about a famous person, a leader. It can be about somebody who is hiring people for design. It could be somebody who owns the business. Cancer can be clothes. It can be men's clothes. It could be fitness. But somehow you might meet them, you know, in the design process, or they could be a client, or it could be on a set or a shoot, something like that. But somehow there will be some connection between your professional life and also your relationship. When you have a connection between the 7th house lord and the 10th, you either work together or that's how you end up meeting, right? Hopefully he's the boss. That's what I'm hoping for. You have really good, you have really interesting astrology. The Juno, North Node, Jupiter, Venus, Pluto, like your chart says that you're going to be with a very wealthy individual. So it is possible that that 29, that critical degree, is you're waiting to meet that person once they've gone and they've built up the business. And like, of course you have a good eye for fashion. Look at that 2nd house stellium. But I do feel like for you, you know, what you want to be mindful of is the South Node coming into conjunction with your ascendant and your sun in this next year. It's about going through a huge change and like letting go of an old version of yourself and embracing something new. So the North Node in Aries in the 7th house is like, maybe being a little bit more like sporty spice. Maybe you're going to don red hair or lipstick, or be wearing, you know, wearing more masculine clothes or a shorter haircut. There's going to be something like that that's going to change. Very un-Libra-like, right? But a lot more action with clients and working with people. So it's going to be very busy for you. And then Jupiter goes into your 9th. So you're going to have an opportunity to travel. So I love that for you too, but man, I mean, that's a triple threat. Jupiter conjunct the North Node, Venus conjunct Pluto, Jupiter conjunct Venus. I'm not just telling you this. You're waiting for this other person to kind of get their shit together, and then you're going to end up meeting them. I just changed my hair to red. I've been fighting it. I'm a Libra rising too, and I have an Aries moon, and I've been like, oh, I want to dye my hair red, but then I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. I'm just going to look like a pink marshmallow. But I've been thinking about it. You'll see. When you get into your 7th house annual perfection. So after your birthday next year, probably when you're seeing like Mars going through Scorpio next year, or when you see eclipses in the still taking place in the spring of 2025, right when the North Node is leaving, you will probably have met this person. Okay. Keep being social. That North Node in the 7th means you got to be meeting with other people. So it's really good for business. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck. Let's see. We've got Maritza, Heather, and then Dorothy. I like red lipstick too much. I don't think I could do red lipstick and red hair, you know? Been red before. It's a bitch to get back to a normal color. So I keep telling myself, just be normal. Don't do it. Don't shave your head. You're welcome. Good luck. Okay, we have Maritza. Oh, here we go. So this is a Synastry. Let's edit this. 11/10/89, Dalton, Georgia. Where is it? There we go. 2:34 a.m. Okay, so let's read this. So Maritza says 8:25:84, Bronx, got it. And it was in the PM. And then we've got the other person, which is 11:10:89, 2:34 a.m. Hi Candace, I truly appreciate you. Sorry for all the info below, but the background info helps. I need a guidance with my partner, anything I should be aware of. Intuitively, I feel something is off, but I don't know what it has me in my head, and I'm very emotional. Last week has been an emotional roller coaster. Please help me understand along with this eclipse in my life. A little background, we met in April. Got serious over the last 2 months. He cleaned house with a 10-year relationship that went pretty bad for him and ended a year ago. And I too recently moved forward back, after cleaning up some karmic ties. The spring eclipse was brutal. I felt it in March, but 4 weeks before the eclipse took place, it was very much necessary about a month after I met him. Okay. I gotcha. What's up, girl? Okay. Whew. I just want to look at what's going on with him right now. Virgo rising, Venus in the 4th, Saturn coming up on the descendant, Aries moon. He's got quite the chart. Okay. A couple things, right? So, he's a Virgo rising, Saturn's coming up on his descendant. Right? So this is really about him really getting ready to commit more seriously with someone that he loves. 2 is he is a Virgo rising, and he's also recently had a retrograde on his ascendant in opposition to planets in his 7th house. So he hasn't been communicating very well. There's been some issues, and perhaps maybe some issues in expressing himself a little bit. 3, when I look at your chart, you've also had a Mercury retrograde in your 5th house. Venus retrograde in your 5th house. Venus has been retrograde in Leo. So there's been a lot of back and forth the last month or two with a younger lover where his South Node is. Look, here's the deal. On one hand, I feel inclined to tell you that I get why you guys came together. He has all of his planets in your 7th house, so he represents that really intense Scorpio energy that you bring in. On the other hand, this is a karmic relationship. He has his moon. You have your moon and your Juno conjunct his South Node. So it means you guys have done this in the past. And with South Node relationships, there's a need to be like, are you going to keep repeating past patterns? Are we going to stay in the past, or are we going to move forward? That's really the key here, right? I also think that you're kind of at a pivotal moment with Pluto at 29 degrees at the top of your chart, and it's squaring your ascendant and it's squaring your descendant. So you're in Pluto square Pluto. You're in the final moments of Pluto square Pluto. So you're like, I'm finally ready to clear the past. I don't want any drama with relationships. It's like you really love those really heavy Scorpio or like Pluto people because you have Pluto at 29 and you have Saturn also in Scorpio. Jupiter, Venus is nice. Stellium in the 7th house is nice. And maybe I'm biased. This person's born a day before me. I have the same placement: Scorpio Sun, Aries Moon, Venus conjunct Uranus. These people are kind of weird because it's like all that Aries energy is conflicted. Scorpio is really passionate and fixated and intense, but Aries wants to have their own space, right? So there's something going on that's like, he might feel like he goes back and forth between the two things. I do think it was inevitable that a relationship was going to kind of start to fall apart for him. It's been in the skies for quite some time. You were going to end up being the other woman. That's the other thing, because you have Lilith on the descendant. So it would have never worked with him still being involved with something and you coming in, even if he finished it before you got there. In his mind, he may still be trying to reconcile with what's happened in the past and moving forward into a new relationship. I do think that when Saturn hits the descendant, because Saturn represents commitment and who he loves, there's also going to be more serious undertones to relationships, like talking about 7th house themes, marriage, long-term commitment. Saturn rules the 5th house of children. So there might be conversations and discussions revolving around, okay, are we doing these things, right? Pluto's also squaring his Juno. So he's feeling the pressure to really make some sacrifices and changes in regards to relationships. It's interesting because having Venus, Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune in his 4th house, the 4th house is karma, revolving around marriage, not just home and family. He's got a really colorful history with his family, which I'm sure you've heard about. But to me, it looks like, you know, there's been a lot of on and off, back and forth in relationships in the past. And I think that maybe he is finally letting go of this feeling that he thought people who he tried to make it work with for so long, it just didn't work. And now he's trying to embrace like new relationships. So eclipse is in his 7th house. You know, Jupiter hit his moon. He's getting ready to have Saturn hit his 7th house. I mean, it's like, yeah, dude, he is ready for commitment. He is ready to kind of settle into a relationship. All of your planets fall in his 12th house, which means you're like, we have unfinished business. And on one hand, it makes me feel like you kind of have the upper hand. He may feel like he can't quite read you. So there is like a side of you that he doesn't quite fully see. The moon south node is soul family. I think that it's both a combination of him finally realizing he's ready to move forward in a serious relationship, and you've never really had a lot of stability. And it's just a matter of trying to kind of bring these two parts together. Venus on the ascendant is really nice because I can see that there is a lot of love and sacrifice and commitment for him. But I also have this feeling that's like, you need to understand that he has a tendency to either still entertain the past or talk to people in the past or allow the past to come back. And so you need to have an understanding with him that's like, no, we're moving forward. So if he hasn't really processed it and healed it, he needs to. So that way he's really, really ready for what you're ready for. Venus rules your 7th house of marriage. And next year, you're going to start feeling Saturn come into an opposition with Saturn. Saturn's going to start opposing your Venus. So that means that you need to have a lot of clarity in regards to a relationship. You need to make sure that if he's saying that's what he wants, and that's what he wants, and that you guys are actually actively proceeding forward. Maybe that Venus retrograde was good because it made you kind of realize what it is you're looking for. In the 5th house, it's true love, it's creativity, but also it's about whether or not you want to have a kid. That's what that was about because it was on your moon. So it's about how you feel in regards to motherhood. And the 4th house is home, and it was in conjunction to Juno, partnership, a younger person. Yeah, you guys have an age difference, not much, but I wonder if this has come up where you're like, there are certain things I want, and I want within this time frame, even if it's not having kids, getting married, committing, settling down, buying houses. And I think that the squares to your Saturn is like you going like, okay, I have the person who's really ready to do this. And a lot of it comes down to like timing. He's mature. I'll give him that. I mean, I think with Saturn and Neptune, you know, conjunct Venus, there is a sense of a lot of maturity. But I feel like when I look at your chart, you're fine. You have all those planets in Leo. You're gonna have, you know, Uranus. That's gonna square, which means that you're really pushing for that. You just need to make sure that you feel like you have that financial support from a partner. Jupiter's gonna go into your 2nd house next year. You will. For him, it's like, dude, you know, he's having eclipses in his 7th house, which could be marriage, and He's also getting ready to have Saturn go into his 7th house, which means he's going to have an older partner be like, hi, I want to have a kid. What are we doing? So it's a matter of him being like, oh my God. And, you know, he's very focused on finances and resources. So there's a lot of being like, I want to provide. So you guys are going to have to talk about making that happen. But I do feel like he is in the season where all of these things can go down. It's just Venus conjunct Uranus. Talk to him a lot about his past history. Talk to him a lot about his past relationships. Ask him questions about the relationship with his mom. That looks a little challenging, and what he experienced in regards to relationships growing up, because Venus and Uranus are in the 4th house. So he either saw a lot of makeups and breakups, or he didn't really see a lot of people staying. And God, Moon in the 7th house in Aries, square, all that stuff. His is earlier than mine. Yeah, his is earlier than mine. I have the same placements. But definitely I feel like the Moon in the 7th house he's getting activated right now to be focusing on how to be there more for a partner and how to be nurturing for a partner. So it's good timing if that's what you're hoping to achieve. Okay. Come back. Let us know how it goes. I want to hear all about it. We've got Heather, Dorothy, and Muriel. Let's see, make sure I got the right Heather here. 1:23:81, 9:03 p.m. Heather says, I'm finishing a bachelor's in healthcare administration on the 14th, applying to an MBA program with a concentration of data and analytics to start on the 24th. Currently writing my capstone research paper, presence of AI in radiation oncology. I've been a radiation therapist for 13 years. My oldest daughter, who is a senior in high school, is giving up on her classes, and I've pretty much taken over as they're online. She's doing great in her dual enrollment college classes, but it's like she doesn't care about high school. So to ensure she at least gets a high school diploma, I took over mostly. Just want to see what you see. Whoa. It's a lot. What's up, Heather? Well, so kids, right? That's 5th house ruled by Saturn. And Saturn's moving through your 6th house, where you're feeling like you have a lot more responsibility for kids, and their education represents the 7th house. So I will just say this is not judgment at all. But when Saturn gets into your 7th house and it conjuncts Neptune, I'm wondering, is she going to have the necessary capability, skills, and commitment to continue on with her education? That's a concern looking at your chart. Also, I'm thinking about how Saturn is going to start coming into an opposition with your moon next year, and the reoccurring themes of having to clean up, take care of, work on things, perfect things, take care of stuff, and the, effects that it's having on you emotionally, right? So just heads up. It might be worth looking at her chart at some point if that's something that you want to come back and you want to do. I think of like your natal Saturn placement, and you have Saturn conjunct Jupiter, so it does make me feel like it's not like you're just doing it. You're kind of trying to teach your children, or you're trying to show them the way. But I think it is really important as you're looking at the transits in 2025, she goes from high school to college. Is she going to have the necessary skills, right? That's really important to think about, because she may not have the discipline. Saturn is discipline or the focus, and that could cause some real issues in regards to, a relationship with her, because there's been a issue with boundaries that can come up here. I think that'd be my daughter's father, my 3-year-old. He pays child support. Okay. There's going to be some issue there. First kid is your 5th house. Second kid is your 7th. Third kid is your 9th, right? But what do I see outside of that? I mean, I see in your astrology how Pluto's coming into Aquarius in the new year, and it's going to start creeping up on your sun. So it is kind of saying you need to be very mindful of power struggles, challenges, issues involving the sun, self-undoing with children. It can also be, powerful opportunities to transform things in regards to your spiritual goals or beliefs. For a Virgo rising, you're going to hear it's about huge changes in your field, you know, tech and how other things are impacting the work that you're doing. I also think about how the South Node is now sitting on your Pluto. So there's something happening at this moment where you're like really focusing on releasing or letting go of things that don't serve you. It can be toxic habits in relationships, people pleasing, you know, being overly generous, you know, with other people. The North Node is now in your 8th house, so it's all about learning to change, transform, receive, invest, gain from other people. So it can be good for inheritances, it can be good for getting child support, for getting spousal support, for, you know, also investments and things like that. So that can be a major theme in the 8th house, ruled by Mars. So it's interesting to see Mars go through the 2nd house. Have you had some sudden expenses come in, or are you having to pay for things that you're not used to paying for? Do you have a tax bill come in, anything like that? Because it does look like with Mars in the 2nd house, you're having to pay for things for other people right now. And you're like, ugh, I'm over it. The good news is that I do see you having an opportunity as Saturn is coming up on your descendant to focus more on stronger relationships and commitments in relationships. Could be with kids, but it can also be with clients. It could be with friends. It could be with romantic partners. And Saturn is going to start coming into a sextile with Jupiter. So that can indicate that relationships with teachers, mentors, and other people who can help facilitate education and, you know, philosophy or belief system. There's something to gain there with the support of people in those departments. Changing everything from money, food, diet, working out. Yep. I like it. Yeah, and you know, the other thing is cars, vehicles. This is all Mars. So it's like having to put work and having to make some investments into some of this stuff. But for the most part, you know, I see this being like a really nice time. Venus on your ascendant, I mean, conjunct your moon, taking the time to really focus on health and wellness and what you're eating and consuming and the goals when it comes to your body. The trines to Jupiter and Uranus are what you're learning about diet, health, and nutrition. So I'm assuming you're really going to start to see the benefits of this when you get into like a Mercury retrograde over your Venus. This can also be wonderful for confidence. So it is very possible for that. You know, working as having a higher position, I think about like next year when Jupiter and Uranus, you know, come into conjunction in April. In your 9th, it could be the head or the lead of something at school. And then I think of Jupiter going into Gemini in July, and then Mars will show up. So, you know, if you end up saying, yes, I'll accept this, you know, position, it may not be until closer to, you know, May through about September. So maybe you're accepting it right at the end of the school year and you're planning on coming in the fall. But Jupiter moving into the 10th house is going to be wonderful for getting a position, but it looks like you're juggling something, or you're going from one thing to another thing, or maybe you have 2 jobs or 2 job opportunities. You know, you're going to hear for Aquarius that it's really good for happiness, creativity, and children. So I do feel like there can be, with a huge change maybe in your workflow and your responsibility, you're like, okay, you know, there's stuff going on where you're like telling your daughter, like, okay, I'm not going to be here all the time. Let's see how much you can kind of do on your own. And I love that that's going to trine Saturn and Jupiter in your 2nd house. So that's really opening the door for, I think, more financial support and resources. And I would be looking for that, like I said, spring of next year, even if it doesn't start until the new year, right? Eclipses are going to start happening in your 7th house too. So that's something else to watch. And if you're not already aware, Saturn will be opposing your moon. So it does tell me that there may be a sense of feeling like there is some challenges with relationships with some female friends, or maybe feeling like somebody is at a distance. Be mindful that your moon is at an 18 degrees, so it does deal with health. And so with Saturn in opposition to your moon, watch for perhaps, you know, challenges with emotions. There can be opportunities for you to cut back on things that you're eating, but I would say I've seen a lot of people with like Saturn moon aspects that like try fasting. So I don't know if that's something that you're going to consider doing, but that can come up as well. But yeah, work stuff for sure. Jupiter going into your 10th house in the spring. I think you're going to go back and forth between two positions, and you're going to be like, I could do this thing, but this is how it impacts my routine and my home life. And you're like, how do I juggle both? And you're going to have to make a choice. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Heather. We have Dorothy, Muriel, and Trudy. Carnivore. I like it. All right, so we have Dorothy, who is, let's see, wait a second. Is this the right Dorothy? This is the wrong Dorothy. Hold on. Am I at the point where I need to add people? Is there another Dorothy? Hold on. Let's see. Dorothy. Maybe. Trudy? No, I thought you were in there. Let's see. Dorothy. $416.85. There we go. Okay, so we got Dorothy here, April 16th, 1985, 8:23 a.m. Who says, what can I do during the upcoming move of Pluto into Aquarius? I'm particularly interested in what I can do with Aries in my natal 12th house. Well, what system are you using? 8:23 a.m. Dayton, Ohio. Are you here, Dorothy? $8:23 a.m. Am I doing this correctly? You do Placidus. Aries is on the cusp of your 12th house at 29 degrees. Yeah, that's a lot of Aries. I don't know what housing system you use. So I'm using Placidus, but for April 16th, 85, 8:23 a.m. in Dayton, I have Gemini rising at 12. I have Sun in Aries at 26, and I have Moon in Pisces at 16. So let me know if you have something different. But I do not have any Aries in your 12th house, actually. Both whole sign and Placidus. It's not there. So Pluto, technically, going into Aquarius, is still going to be hanging out in your Placidus 9th. And it's going to start making sextiles to Mercury. It's a pretty wide orb. You know, Mercury is at 6, Pluto's going to get to 2, so you're looking at a 4-degree orb, 5-degree to Venus. So it's still going to be about another year or two before you're receiving sextiles. Probably the most significant thing that's going on is you're going to have Pluto that will trine Juno, which is about partnership. And you're going to have Pluto that's going to start squaring Pluto. So you're coming into your Pluto square Pluto. So Pluto in Aquarius, okay? So let's talk about that. So we're going to see Pluto return to Aquarius in the new year. Technically, Pluto is going to be in your 9th house, so it's changing and transforming your belief system, philosophy, education, teachers. It can be about shifts in your belief system. Pluto says we have to end one thing and begin something new. And Pluto is technically connected to Scorpio, and Scorpio is intercepted. So it tells me that you're going to be realizing and learning about making some changes to your beliefs about your purpose, your health, your routine. As Pluto continues to move through Aquarius, yeah, it's going to trine all this. And it's also going to, it's going to sextile all this Aries. So it's going to really open you up to new goals, new socializing, you know, meeting new groups of people. But it's going to start trining Chiron, Ceres, and the Ascendant. So for a Gemini rising, you know, the Pluto transit's pretty positive. It's not as challenging as it is for other signs. It might mean that you learn new skills. Maybe you embrace new belief systems about, you know, your purpose, or you're learning new techniques. Pluto in Aquarius is about technology too. So it's like where maybe you're having to do more training, or you're learning more to stay on the up and up with what's going on with your career and like what you're doing at work. I could definitely see a shift revolving around education. That could definitely be another theme. But for the most part, it's pretty positive. The only real aspect you're going to have that's challenging is the Pluto square Pluto. But everybody has that at some point, you know, as they're getting into, you know, their later 30s, going into their 40s, you start having that. And Pluto is in the 6th house, so it can be about toxicity, resistance to habits, to work habits, to health and routine. And you have Pluto South Node and Saturn here. So you're no stranger to having problems with people in the workspace, or having digestional issues, or maybe reproductive issues, or there can be issues revolving around hormonal stuff, dietary stuff. And to be able to better combat this Pluto in the 6th house, that means that you're probably going to have to implement learning more about health and routine, and maybe you'll adopt some other kind of like modality. Like I've seen some clients who go through this, same age as well, who have been like, I am changing my religious belief or my spiritual belief, and I'm incorporating that in my daily routine, so I'm keeping better habits. Or I've seen people who go, I no longer like doing what I want to do, so I'm going back to college, and that's the change, and they're getting a new degree. I've also seen people who travel, and they go and they see the world, and it gives them a better kind of world view and perspective about life, and they realize what's most important to them, and then they come home and they make some changes to their routine. Eastern modality, Eastern medicine also kind of comes up a lot. I wonder if this is going to be about like how technology can also improve your health and your habits. That's the things that kind of come to mind for me the most when I look at your chart. And I would welcome the trines to Chiron and also to Juno, because it looks like it's going to help kind of heal and change the way that you look at healing yourself, but equally also like partnerships as well, right? All those eclipses in Aries right now, so nice for you. It's just like socializing, meeting people, getting out there, connecting with others. Really interesting that the 1985 people who have the Venus retrograde in Aries conjunct Mercury, it's going to be really important for you to feel like you are a part of a group or a collective. And if you can't find one, start one, right? If you can't join one, start one. Hope that's helpful for you. We have Muriel, Trudy, and JMA. Let's see, I think I have Muriel in here. All right, so Muriel says, good evening, Candace. Thank you for your amazing content and offerings. October 28th, 1995. Well, happy birthday. 11:38 p.m. in Ottawa. My question for the lunar eclipse is, I'm wondering how this eclipse will impact my career, especially as it pertains to pursuing my own business. I like it. Well, so you have an eclipse on your birthday. It is the lunation of the moon right in opposition to your sun. So it's almost projectile launching you out of the 4th house and into the 10th. So it's like, okay, I've done enough stuff behind the scenes. I'm ready to go big. So this eclipse is like the cherry on top of what has been 2 years of a lot of changes revolving around your status, your professional life, your goals, and your career. So it can basically encapsulate in your solar return, we're going big career-wise all year, right? So something that kind of comes to mind for me is probably the fact that mid-December through mid-January, you know, Jupiter is going to hover around these degrees. Jupiter represents your whole sign 5th house of creativity, self-expression, fun, and self-employment, and the 9th house of marketing. So just with the full moon, even if it wasn't an eclipse, I'd be like, yeah, it's go time. But you've got an eclipse on your birthday in your career zone with Jupiter in opposition to your sun. you know that term, like, you know, shoot for the stars, even if you, like, you know, even if, or shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. That's kind of how I see like a Sun-Jupiter opposition. It's like, I'm going to go as big as possible. I'm going to set all of these goals and all of these intentions. I'm like, even if I don't quite hit it, I'm still going to have some sense of success. That's how I see this for you. I remember having one in my 20s, and it was some similar transits that I was experiencing. I feel like it's going to take all year for you to see the results, and I don't say that to hinder you. I'm just letting you know. Give it the year for it to fully manifest. I think about how the full moon is basically saying, okay, I'm committing to this idea, and maybe you're getting ready to launch something. But I would use the Mercury retrograde in mid-December through January to get it organized and get it set up. I think that launches can be really good anytime from the new year on. You can do it when all the planets move into your 7th house at the end of January. You could do it after the solar eclipse in April. There will be a solar eclipse in your 10th house that's going to be taking place. And you're in your nodal reversal right now. So usually your south node's in the 10th house, and your path isn't necessarily about professional life and career and all of these things, because you've done a lot of this in the past. But because you're in your reverse nodal return, the universe is saying, like, you can go and do this right now. You can do both. You can do home stuff and career stuff. And Saturn's trining your sun. So it's like, yes, I think that you should do this year. I would say give yourself from about, let's say mid-December through April to get everything out and start launching it. You might find during the Mercury retrograde and the solar eclipse in April that you're reorganizing something and you're still kind of learning to tweak things and getting ready to kind of put all the finishing touches on it, but why not? And I love with Saturn trine your sun that this is a time where you're really kind of getting, you know, situated. I think the lesson here with Saturn going into your 9th house is you're going to learn about marketing, or you're going to learn about cash handling, or you're going to learn about taxes, or you're going to bring in a mentor. Like, there's going to be support. And during your Saturn return, that's when some really big life things happen. As a Scorpio, you're going to have Saturn 5th house to your sun. So it does represent something that you create, that, you know, you put out into the world, that's yours, that you have to nurture. It's about expression. But it's technically going to be in your 9th house. That means you need to know all about the law, the legalities. You need to know about self-promotion. There is a sense also with Saturn in the 9th of a teacher coming in, or a mentor coming in and helping you. And part of your Saturn return is going to feature some trines to Venus, which is going to be, I think, about like establishing relationships with your audience or your clients. And then as a Scorpio, you have eclipses in Aries right now, which is about work and habits and daily routine. Find a routine, get into a groove, be consistent with it, and be patient. But I definitely feel like this is a good time to be initiating some of this stuff. Just work with the retrogrades that you're going to see in December and also in April to kind of rearrange some things until you kind of find your groove. But I would assume you'll find right around the time that Saturn's trining your sun, all of this hard work and sacrifice is paying off. That's going to be spring of next year. Just do something big for your birthday. Sit down, write out all of your intentions, you know, burn a candle, like set intentions, because during the eclipse with that conjunct Jupiter, what you're hoping for, what you're desiring, right? That's what you really want to be putting an emphasis on. Set those intentions during the eclipse, because that's a really powerful time to bring all that stuff in. Happy birthday to you. Such an exciting time. So cool to have that eclipse. It's going to square all of your chart, but it's like, you know, it's pulling you out of your cave. If you have that many planets in Scorpio, there is a tendency to kind of want to hide a little bit, so it's pushing you out of your comfort zone. Good luck. We've got Trudy, JMA, and then Samantha. All right, Trudy, I've got you here January 2nd, 83. So you're Virgo rising, sun in Capricorn, and your moon is in Virgo. You're welcome. Trudy says, here you go. 10:15 p.m. in Mexico. Okay, cool. I'm happily married with my wonderful husband. Our family is complete. 3 boys and 1 girl, born the same day as me, also Sunday. I don't have the best relationship with my mom, basically non-existent. So with my love for my daughter, I get to heal the mother-daughter relationship. What new significant events will happen within the next couple of months? Will I succeed in my career? It's been difficult. I stuck with my organization and finally getting a permanent position with a promotion that will start next month. Thank you. Love your channel. Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're healing some stuff with mom through your daughter. I think that, right now with Saturn in Pisces, sixth house, sacrifice, care, giving, nurturing, right? That opposition to the moon, you're really feeling the distance, or maybe you're feeling the absence, I guess I should say, of the relationship with a mother figure, right? You have your moon, which can be mom, it can be roots, 4, which is definitely mother related things and from the past. Moon's in the 12th house, and Saturn's like, I'm not feeling that connection. And within that, there's also this sense of being like, but, what love I have to give to my own children. I think of the eclipses for a Capricorn, which is, taking place 5th house to the sun. So it can talk about the joy that comes from the relationship with kids. Saturn's going to be in opposition to your moon pretty much between now and, let's say, about January of 2024. And Saturn takes about 28, 29 years to go through all of the signs. So this is a once in a 28-year period where you're having the Saturn-Moon opposition. I think that, when I look at your astrology with the 4th house, it's a bit complex. You have the Neptune conjunct the South Node, so that can represent separating, dissolving, disconnecting from roots, even from your homeland. So I don't know where you live now, but usually this is a chart where somebody moves away from home, they go somewhere else, they kind of release or let go of like their lineage, and they move somewhere new, right? Especially with Jupiter and Uranus. This should be somebody who's like moved quite a bit. Anyway, that Jupiter-Uranus also squares your moon. So it represents like mom not always being available or not always being there to kind of nurture. The 12th house is hidden. And then the square to Jupiter and Uranus can actually talk about that there has been trauma in the family, throughout mother to daughter relationships. And when Uranus squares the moon, it's not the warmest or the friendliest feeling. It makes me feel like you realize that mom wasn't always the safe space emotionally, and there was a lot of disruptions in the connection and communication. I love that you're willing to lean into all of your 5th house placements, and you're really doing a lot of work in regards to the relationship with your inner child through your children. I think also, being a Virgo rising, you are having Pluto now coming into contact with your Mercury. So that is about changes in regards to how you think, how you communicate. Mercury rules your chart, and it can be a time where there can be obsessive thought patterns, thinking, communication. That can be a transit where you opt or you choose to do some emotional healing or healing some kind of trauma. Mercury can be the hands, so I would look into like EFT, the tapping techniques, the emotional freedom technique. So when you're feeling feelings, you can actually tap on the body and you can work through it so you can release stuff. I also think that, Pluto hanging around your Mercury for the next year, it can bring up deep-seated issues and things that you haven't thought about for some time or things you haven't spoke about, and give you the opportunity to express it and heal. Mercury also deals with breathing, lungs, and anything in regards to Aquarius that can be the nervous system. So you want to be really mindful that you're not repressing anything, because you're also going to see Pluto start coming into a square with Saturn. So journaling, walking, bike riding, breathing techniques, these are all things that can kind of help you move through some of this stuff so you're not feeling like that trauma is like trapped in your body, right? Work stuff's only going to get better and better, right? I think that right now, seeing Saturn oppose your moon, there is this awareness that's like, yes, I've been making a lot of sacrifices, I've been paying my dues, but it's getting ready to pay off. Part of Pluto coming into conjunction with Mercury is you're going to have a lot more responsibility, you're going to be very busy, there's going to be a much faster pace, and you're going to have to be either working with or collaborating with a group of people. And Jupiter going into your 10th house next year definitely indicates that there's a change on the forefront in regards to your workspace and who you're working with and helping kind of collaborate or lead a team. Hard work will pay off. But the theme here is about learning to not feel like you need to take on everybody's stuff. So there's going to be something that's going to be going on here with Pluto conjunct Mercury where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm pulling my hair out because I have so many people I'm trying to talk to and manage. It's going to be really important for you to be being on the up and up with technology and other things that can help keep everything in flow so you're not feeling like you have to take on too much. Sometimes when you see an outer planet touch your chart ruler, there can be health issues. So I would say go back and look at what happened in 2020. Saturn hit this degree, and I'm wondering if that's when you had to commit to a new schedule, a new routine. Maybe you made some health changes. Maybe it was about just taking better care of your emotional health and like working through that. Maybe you had a lot of responsibility for your kids because it was in your 5th house. But you're going to see something like that that's going to happen again. And I really want to make sure that you're finding ways to better navigate. But where do I see health issues? I see health issues at 18 degrees. And so your Mars is at 18 degrees. Have you ever looked into biofeedback, or do you ever work with sound healing, or do you listen to binaural beats? Have you considered doing like frequency healing, any of that stuff? Because that would be really helpful with some of your placements in helping kind of transmute stuff and working through like trauma. The 4th house of the chart is the womb. So it's connecting to your womb, your mother, your grandmother. So when you have like South Node or Uranus or other things there's a lot of trauma. And it looks like to me, you're just the person who inherited it. So now you're like, what do I do with all of this stuff? A lot of it may not even be yours. It can be stuff that you're carrying from other generations. And it can also be stuff that you're consciously choosing to purge and clear out and dissolve. I would imagine with that 12th house moon and your South Node Neptune, you're somebody who probably likes baths or soaking in water or being in the ocean or salt water. That helps you feel a little bit more calm, like you can clear stuff out. But also I think like meditation. South Node Neptune means that you had a lot of Neptunian lives in the past. Mystical, spiritual, stuff involving medicine, stuff involving... South Node Neptune for me in Sag is like shamanic studies. So you might have done some kind of work like that in the past, especially with the moon in the 12th. I mean, you probably have an experience in those techniques. So I think if you were to learn more about these meditation techniques or past life regression or other things, there could be a lot of clearing that you can do in that like Neptunian sense. Other people with South Node Neptune, they overdrink, oversleep, overdrug, all of those fun Neptune things. And it means that also you should have chosen to have a spouse that was very culturally different than you. They should have a different background because the 4th house is the karma of the marriage. So with South Node Neptune, it means that you chose somebody that's got very different lineage or background. And that in itself is helping also kind of make some changes in terms of like your culture, and it's changing or breaking down like the patterns of where you come from, right? North Node in the 10th house with the moon. It's like you're going to do best if you can like build your group and then work behind the scenes. Does that make sense? It's like I would like to see you like learning how to be a leader by learning how to delegate tasks, not being the person who's like, I can do everything. No, it's about being like, here's the team, knowing who needs to do what, delegating tasks, and then being like, if you need me, I'm in my office. Because that's where you do your best work, when you have privacy, when you're alone, right? Because with Mars in the 6th house, there can be too many problems with employees, and the moon in the 12th wants to hide, it wants a private space. Yeah, he's a completely different background. Good. He's supposed to be. that helps you kind of switch it up a little bit, And you're in the tail end of Pluto square Pluto. So moving through some of this healing work, especially with a daughter, Venus in the 5th house, is really helpful, and it's helping you move through issues, especially in regards to having breakthroughs with self-esteem. So, caring for children, being there for kids makes you feel good, makes you feel needed and important. So that in itself is also healing as well, because maybe you didn't feel like you kind of got that from mom. keep us updated on the changes. Look for that in the spring, but there may be more than one option or offer, so I'm wondering which one you'll choose. All right, so this is the part in the show where I have to put a couple of charts in. We're down to the last people, so we've got JMA, Samantha, MYSA, Rachel, Dina, Diana, and Fatin. Okay, so give me 5, and then I will plug this in, and then we can finish up. You guys can look at my super cute pumpkin. You can get a snack. Make sure you guys give me a thumbs up. If you guys can see this, please like the stream. It's really helpful for interaction with the channel. It lets other people know that we're still crazy and on the internet live doing readings. I'm like trying to get this done before the moon squares Pluto, because that's when the energy gets a little heavy. What are you guys doing for the eclipse? How are you guys celebrating? Is anybody having it on any significant placements in their chart? For MYSA, did you guys can you send me your Synastry information if you did not already, please? It's M.YSA. I need the time, birth date, location from you, please. For both of you. And if you have a question. Okay, so we've got JMA, Samantha, and then Marissa. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. All things considered, this was pretty chill for an eclipse. Okay, so we've got JMA. Let's see what they have to say. 10/17/72, 1:48 p.m., and that was in Pittsburgh. Okay, lunar eclipse in Taurus is on my IC. The last eclipse was on my sun. Conjunct point of fortune, 7 December. Okay. Don't know if I should be looking at Placidus or whole sign. I feel more comfortable with whole sign, and I feel more comfortable with Aquarius rising because of my moon. Literally had the worst years of my life. Progressed sun in the 12th house. Lost my husband. Oh, I'm sorry. My children ended up in a hospital, got mugged. I just want to know if there's any bright side. I really, really, really want to meet someone soon. I'm so lonely. My solar return was last week, and it said it was going to be in the 5th house, but who knows? I'm really confused between whole signs and Placidus. By the way, they both make sense because I do have 2 PhDs in computer science. I'm very involved with my career, so 9th, 10th house Libra makes sense. Okay, I've got you. All right, so first of all, let's just look at your chart before we even look at any of the transits, right? So one thing that comes to mind looking at this is that, you know, whether you look at this Placidus or whole sign, you are a Capricorn rising. If this is the time that you were born, you're a Capricorn rising. So you can either look at 0 degrees or you can look at 11 degrees. Don't matter to me. You're not an Aquarius rising. 2 is you have all of this Libra that is in conjunction, you know, to Uranus and Mars and Pluto. So you are going to move through a lot of change, transformation, regeneration, rebirth, sudden unexpected things in regards to relationships, partners, also education, travel, belief, and honey, you're going to get married again, right? So there's a number of ways that I can see this. One is that you have the South Node in your 7th house. That does not mean you lose a relationship or a partner, but the moon is end of life, and you have 11 on the descendant, so it could have been sudden and unexpected. And then the moon's in Aquarius in the 1st house, so it left you on your own, especially as a single mom. And the moon quincunx the South Node. 2 is you have all of these planets in the 9th house, which is technically the 2nd husband, square the nodes. So there's going to be another person. You just had an eclipse that was technically conjunct your sun, so it can be setting the stage to bring another person in. But also it was conjunct Ceres, which brings grief, loss, and loneliness. Now, your second quote-unquote marriage is going to be ruled by Venus, and here's Venus in the 8th house. So it means you'll meet them when you're going through some significant change or transformation. Could you meet them while traveling or higher levels of education? Sure. Saturn's going to start opposing Venus, which means there can be a long-distance relationship that emerges. Oh, he was your 2nd husband. Okay. So 3rd husband, should you be so lucky, is your 11th house. So that's Mars, still in Libra. So, and Mars is in its fall there. So you have the South Node coming into conjunction. There will be an eclipse on your Mars next year. I know that for sure. So it will be... Where's the eclipses? There we go. That one will be close in the end of March, but I'm looking at this one. So solar eclipse, October 2nd, 2024. Does that mean you have to wait that long for a relationship? No. But having this eclipse on your Mars, which is technically your third marriage ruler with Venus conjunct Juno, I would say I would give it probably at the very latest until then. You're going to have a Venus transit in the 10th, and you're going to have also a Mars retrograde that will be in the 7th. So you'll be entering back into relationship. That's the eclipse that you want to watch for, okay, for relationship and also job changes. But for right now, you know, this is more about what changes am I making professionally, what shifts am I making in regards to my belief system, what direction am I going on in when it comes to my home, life, right? Aries. And Jupiter, Uranus in your 4th house is changes with home and family, right? So I know you sent me a bunch of stuff about everything that's happened. Look, progressions are important. You know, you can't just look at transits and go like, oh, this planet's transiting this house and it's going to be a month and then everything changes. No. So, you know, touching on some of the progressions in your 12th house, yeah, that can be challenging, but you're also going to want to look at like the eclipses that are going on in the 12th house. So what did you say? Positive whole sign. Progressed sun in the 12th house. Lost my husband. Let's see. Let's just look at it. I'm progressing it from your natal chart, by the way. So I don't know which one you're looking at. Are you looking at your solar arc? Okay, so just food for thought. When I look at your progressions, both solar arc as well as progressed secondary, no, you don't have that. You have your progressed sun in the top part of your chart. So let me go back here. So this is your secondary progression. Yes, it's moving through, I guess, okay, your natal 12th house, but it's technically still at the top part of your chart, and you're getting ready to see Moon conjunct Jupiter. So yeah, you're about to come into some really big changes in regards to your career. Moon conjunct Jupiter is pretty positive, especially in the spring, and then the Moon's going to conjunct the North Node, right? So I definitely feel like the career stuff is on the up and up. But yeah, when we do the overlay like this, it's in your 12th house, right? But you have the Moon getting ready to hit your ascendant and then Jupiter. So it's almost like April, May, June, there's a shift. Moon on the ascendant, yeah, you can be emotional and sensitive, but conjunct Jupiter, you're more optimistic about some of the lessons that you've learned. And all of this is also squaring your Mars. So it's about being like, okay, I can't get too stuck into, you know, being by myself, being alone. And your progressed Venus is in Scorpio, and there's been oppositions and squares to that in recent years. But you're getting ready to see a lot of planets tear through there. And I think the loneliness is actually stemming from transits on your progressed ascendant. You've got Neptune on your ascendant here. And Saturn's going to cross this as well. So what you're going to be learning is that, you know, yes, it's challenging to be alone, but you're learning to overcome that. And like there's a lot of career growth. Relationship stuff will happen when you see some stuff going on with your progressed Mercury. And let's see, Mercury's in Scorpio. Uranus is going to oppose that, right? So it means that you might have some sudden unexpected connections with people. Once again, that's an indication of somebody that could be at a distance, right? So somebody could be a little bit further away. But I'm liking the Moon Jupiter in your 10th house. That's great for work and status. That's like, yeah, there's just so much stuff's changing there. And in regards to, your natal, let's go back to this. You were just destined to have a lot of changes in relationships. Sorry, but that was going to happen. Even when I look at your 11th house, and this is whole sign, Juno and Mercury is there. So you may meet somebody who's involved in like research. You may also meet somebody who's a widow, or you can meet somebody who like has some kind of loss or grief revolving around a relationship ending or somebody leaving. But I think it could be connecting to like death, to be honest with you. And Mercury sextiles Venus. So you might meet somebody else who's gone through something similar where they lost someone. There's a fixed star that's associated with widows. I can't remember which one it is. I don't have it in my software, but I know that there is a specific... There's one that I think I could have sworn it's called the Widow Maker, if I remember correctly. But there's a few stars, but one in particular that I'm thinking about. But personally, I feel like the transits that you're going through, you know, with the eclipse with your Mars, it's going to bring you into some kind of union and connection with somebody round about this time next year. Watch the Mars retrograde that's going to happen in your 7th next year. When Mars goes from Leo back into Cancer, and this starts trining your planets in Scorpio, you'll have an opportunity to go back into a committed relationship. But until then, South Node on your Sun, grief, loss, releasing, letting go of something, you're pretty much done with that pretty soon. And then the eclipses that we're going to have next year are going to oppose it. So the spring is all about what's going on with you emotionally, what's going on with your home base, what's going on with your family. Right now, it's like full speed ahead with work and career. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Sending you lots of good vibes as you come out of that 12th house keyhole. It's terrible. I know that can be a really difficult progression. I've got Samantha. What's up, Samantha? I've got you here April 12th, 1980. And it says Blue Island, Illinois, 8:06 a.m. What is your question for me, my dear? What is your question for me? Gemini rising, sun in Aries, moon in Pisces. You had an eclipse conjunct your Pluto. Whoa. What happened here? There she is. Stuck in bed for 3 months. I'm trying to set up a self-employment gig for myself. That will happen. What will happen with my health? And do you see anything in regards to love? Well, 2 things. You had an eclipse 2 weeks ago right on your Pluto. 5th house can be love, romance, creativity, self-employment. Pluto rules your 6th house of health and habits. So you're like wanting to remedy health and relationship stuff, but it's about getting into a routine, okay? Here's the thing. You have Pluto in opposition to your sun, and you have an exalted sun. You have Venus in the 8th house, in the 12th house. So you're no stranger to having separations in relationships, right? You've had that quite a bit, whether it's friendships, romantic partners, whatever. You've experienced that. Pluto represents that power over you. And so the eclipse was in opposition to your sun. So as an Aries, you probably heard, oh, you know, you had an eclipse in Libra, big changes with relationships, right? Because Mars was there. But I think it was more about clearing out the past and the relationship to yourself. I think an eclipse conjunct Pluto sucks. I had one of those last year. It was terrible. So I know what that's like. But, you know, the positive is that this particular eclipse tried your ascendant, right? It also tried your south node. So it's about being like, I have to take care of me. I have to love me. I have to prioritize me. I have to focus on what I'm creating, not letting the feeling of whether or not somebody chooses me affect me, right? So you have some like learning to work through relationship stuff in your chart, especially with Venus in the 12th at an 8 in Gemini. So the other thing that I would think about is the fact that this eclipse is going to take 6 months to play out, right? So you're going to have a full moon that's going to be in Libra next spring. And that can bring some kind of fulfillment in a relationship. Technically, like Libra's intercepted in your chart, which means Venus is a blind spot. And oh, there's Venus in the 12th. So it is saying there can be a sense of people being interested in you that you're not aware of, or working through some like karmic connections. When you see a really significant transit involving Venus and or Mercury, I could see another relationship setting up. You will see Neptune come into conjunction with Mercury, and you will see Jupiter conjunct Venus. And that's happening within this next year. I would say maybe like, you know, dating, it's going to be easier after the new year because you're going to have a Mercury retrograde here in your 7th. So mid-December through January can be a little confusing. If this were me, I would be really focusing on when planets are coming into conjunction with Mercury, February, March, April, getting out there, socializing, trying to meet people. And there will be a pretty significant connection with Jupiter and Venus in the 12th house. The key here is not letting it be a situationship and not being in a situation where you're feeling like there's no understanding or clarity revolving around, you know, where it's going, right? And then you're going to have an eclipse conjunct your sun next year. Which is going to be about communicating and expressing your needs. In regards to your ascendant degree, Gemini, right? Communicative, chatty, changeable. It's about learning, sharing. 17 is a Leo degree, so it's about the heart space. It's about creativity, sharing and expressing yourself, being able to connect with the inner child. It can also be very romantic. It can be kind of flirty. And obviously your ruler is, you know, Mercury. So you kind of have a slight square. It's a 10-degree orb, but a slight square between Mercury and the ascendant. So I think that people who have Venus in the 12th house and people who have like a Leo degree on the ascendant, they don't realize how attractive they are, or they don't realize how creative or beautiful they can be. And so I think maybe part of Saturn coming into conjunction with your moon and Mercury is like learning to feel more confident in connecting with people and learning to like really put that out there so that way you can let other people see you. So you are opening the door, making it more possible for, you know, you to connect with other people, right? But yeah, that eclipse that's going to sit conjunct your sun with Chiron next spring is like, oh, definitely an important time to be a part of like a healing community or a healing group. I would encourage you to go and do like either start a group, initiate a group, Aries, maybe go and do some fitness or some hiking or some other things with other people, and really put yourself around people who are like movers and shakers, who are encouraging you to be physically active and healing something, but also who are encouraging, you know, the things that you can create, the things that you do. A solar eclipse here is basically saying you have to get through the muck on your Pluto before you can go deeper into some of your career stuff. And I would assume, you know, as Saturn's coming into conjunction with your moon and you're really focused on making money, and then Saturn starts trining Uranus, and it starts coming into a sextile with Jupiter, more resources can come. But next year, how you work and how you make money is going to be very dependent on your emotions, right? And so if you're in the metaphysical, the spiritual, the healing world, a Saturn moon transit is going to be challenging. You're going to need your yoga, right? You're going to need your meditation. You're going to need to be working all the grief and stuff out of the body, out of your bones. And you were born with moon in conjunct Pluto. So it tells me that you're like a little psychic sponge. It's imperative that you learn how to balance out your energies first before you start working with other people so you don't get sick. That's really the long and short of it. Moon opposed Saturn. You need boundaries with clients. You need boundaries with women. You need boundaries with people. Otherwise, you're going to get sucked into their stuff, you know? Hopefully that's helpful. Go and learn about Neptune transit your Mercury or your chart ruler. That's very important for you right now. Let's see, we've got, let's see, so that was Michelle, M-Y-S-A, Michelle, I think it was. Marissa, sorry. It was Marissa. And there was another person. Cruz. There we go. Sending you good vibes, free spirit. Go and learn about Saturn on your moon. That'll help. Your Sadi Santi. What's up, Fran? I didn't see your comment till just then. My natal moon in Taurus is at the exact degree of the full moon. So the question is, what snacks are you buying yourself tomorrow? All right, so Marissa says, Candace, I want to know how my relationship will work out. So I've got you here December 5th, 84, and that was at 6 o'clock p.m. in LA. And then we've got Cruz, who is January 10th, 75. Well, so you're a Cancer rising, sun in Sag, and your moon is in Taurus. So this full moon is really, you're feeling it. You're feeling it. So the eclipse is in Taurus, really close to your moon. That's your chart ruler. I would reflect back on the last couple of years you had Taurus eclipses in the fall, because that definitely had an impact on you. Uranus has been around there as well, so you're really feeling emotions running high, especially in regards to your goals and your emotional security and who's got your back. Now, you've got yourself a Capricorn daddy, Cap sun and Cap moon. So obviously those placements on your descendant, you guys come together very well. You're a Venus in Capricorn, so it makes sense that you guys mesh. But you're asking questions about the relationship and whether or not the relationship is going to make it work. You guys have a lot of like interesting things in common. You know, I mean, I like the 7th house connections. I also really like the North Node that he has conjunct your sun. I feel like he helps you kind of get things in order and figure out what you need to kind of work out, right? And you're saying that it's been hard because you're a single mom. Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of support that can come from this person in your chart. Between the 7th house of relationships, the sextile to your 5th house, which deals with children and also like love and relationships. The last couple months as like a Cancer rising, you know, the North Node and the South Node have been going through your 4th house, cleaning house, squaring Pluto. So it's putting a real emphasis on what is it that you need in relationships and whether or not relationships are transforming and turning into what you need for the future. You can rely on them. Let's flip this around. Let's look at his chart. So Aries rising, there it is. So part of what's been going on is, you know, he's got an Aries rising and there's been a Chiron return that's setting up. So he's going through a need to kind of heal himself. It might feel like he's being more selfish. And he's also just recently had a solar eclipse in the 7th with the South Node, which means there feels like there's some relationship clearing that's going on, you know? So with that eclipse square his sun, it does feel like he's looking at things going like, okay, relationships are great, but I got to do things for me. What do I need? Yeah, it's going to feel a little selfish. I do think with like your Mars in the same sign as his Venus, that's good for partnership. I do think your planets on his North Node are teaching him more about being open-minded and optimistic and more accepting of something that's different in terms of maybe, you know, the relationship, and maybe it can be culture, maybe it can be preferences, it can be you inspiring him to want to learn more or travel more. Like, I like your planets on his North Node because I feel like you help him have a much more positive and optimistic worldview. The truth is just like, you know, I do feel like Pluto maybe creeping up on his Venus is going to be creating some big transformations in the relationship department, especially because in the 11th house, it's about his goals and it's about the children of other people. So if you guys had a conversation about where the relationship is going, considering you're a mom, have you talked about that at all? Is that like an issue? Does he see himself being able to kind of commit to somebody and building a life with somebody who's got a kid, and would he be accepting of that? I think these are all things that I would be asking. You know, the synastry is the synastry, but really what it comes down to is like the composite chart. So together, you guys have a Taurus rising, Moon in Capricorn, conjunct Juno, that's good. Venus in Aquarius, okay? So here's the thing. This is a chart ruled by Venus. Pluto's going to hit Venus, which means you guys probably are looking at having conversation as to like whether or not he could see himself settling into a serious relationship again. When Pluto comes into contact with Venus, this will be in the new year, like February, March. Pluto's going to hit your Venus, and then Mars and Venus are going to come into conjunction. I get the vibe that I give it to like mid to the end of February and you guys are discussing whether or not, you know, either one of you could seriously see yourself settling into a relationship again or not. You just recently had an eclipse conjunct your guys' composite Pluto, which means everything's getting aired out that's not working in the relationship, so you can kind of work through it. Sit down and talk about what your goals are so you guys can either decide whether or not you're a good fit for each other or not. I don't think it's going to end right now. But I do feel like with a Saturn, opposed Saturn approaching, a Venus conjunct Pluto approaching, it's about being really honest with each other about what you're both looking for. And just know he's going to go through a period of being kind of selfish, which is fine, whatever. And when I look at your transits, you know, a lot of what's going on is something is changing about your work, in your habits, and your relationships in December. And it's about learning to communicate and let other people in on what it is that you need. If it's better communication, more time, more support, use December to have that conversation, because Mars and Venus and Mercury are all going to be in the 7th house. So it's giving you the opportunity to be like, hi, I need more of this from you. Can you give this to me? And depending on how things go, December into January, you're going to have a better understanding if you guys are going to be able to actually like make it in the long run. But in his chart, it was clear there was going to be a second marriage. So the fact that he's already burned one is kind of helpful. I look at the eclipses and the transits in your 11th house, and it's not just relationships, it's that you need more counterbalance in your life. Jupiter and Uranus in your 11th house says that you need friends, associations, you need a support system outside of your relationship. So you need to be looking at who else has got your back, right? What other friends, what other people can you be kind of, I'm not going to say relying on, but collaborating with, who can give you more support, because all of that's going to start trining your Venus. So you're going to feel more so loved, supported, and you're going to feel like you're getting partnership and not feeling like it's just being in mom mode or having a relationship, right? It's going to be both. Really pay attention to this Mercury retrograde coming up, because on the solstice in December, Mercury will conjunct the sun and it'll be retrograde, and that's the exact same degree as your natal Mercury retrograde. So that's really important. This will be right here. And this is probably going to be where you're like, okay, are we moving forward or are we not? Or are we having miscommunications? How can we move through this? Right around December 21st, 2023. Difficult me for to bounce back after my last breakup with my son's father. Yeah, but this can be the opportunity to work through it and like discuss it and talk about it, you know? Venus in Capricorn they're very particular, they're very picky. And generally, they don't really build with somebody unless they see it going the distance. So in the off chance that things don't work with relationships, it does take time to kind of move forward. But Jupiter and Uranus are trining your Venus, okay? So you need socializing friends, you need mom friends, you need other people who are going to be helping get you socially acclimated, so it's not just the relationship. Especially I think of like Jupiter, Uranus in the 11th house, artists, creatives, maybe people who are into like, you know, like food and culinary stuff or astrology, like some kind of support system might come through that can be really helpful. Hopefully that helps. We've got Rachel. I know she's not here. Rachel, Diana, and Fatin. Thank you guys for your patience. I really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome tonight. Thank you. All right, so Rachel's not here. May 16th, 89. I've been seeing a lot of signs, feeling like something is building up, but I don't know what it is. I'm kind of just going through the motions. Thanks. So Rachel is, excuse me. Let's pull Rachel's chart, not Deanna's chart. How about that? There we go. Okay, so she says that she's been seeing a lot of signs. She's wondering what's going on, like something's building up, and you're going through the motions and you don't know what to do. Libra rising, sun in Taurus, and your moon is in Libra. I love that. I mean, all of the signs and the symbols. So you've had Venus, which is your chart ruler, in the 12th house, which is very much connected to spirituality, signs, symbols, connection to faith, your belief system, and it's in a mercurial sign. So it can be about you getting dreams, symbols, visions, feelings, all kinds of stuff, and you're like, what does it mean? And so you're kind of probably feeling like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Venus is getting ready to trine Uranus, so you might get your answer here pretty soon. And Venus deals obviously with personal changes. I think it's about shifts in regards to travel, belief system, and philosophy. I also think that Venus coming into a trine with Pluto can be some big changes on the home front with family and with relatives, right? So the dates that you're going to see Venus connect with these outer planets will be October 30th, and then right again around November 6th. This is when Venus trines outer planets. And then Venus crosses your ascendant. So do me a favor, take a picture of yourself. November 8th, November 10th. Great day for that. Great day for how you're looking, how you're feeling. And then Venus is also going to continue into conjunction with your moon. When your chart ruler spent all summer retrograde and then kind of like dragging ass through your 12th house, when it finally emerges into Libra, it's going to be a lot better. You're going to feel a lot better. And you're like so Venusian, Libra rising, Libra moon, Taurus sun, like, okay, gorgeous. you know, Venus moving into this part of the sky is going to be really good for you because it's trining your Mercury, your Venus, and your Jupiter. So maybe the signs and the symbols are coming for you intuitively. You may not see it physically manifest quite yet. Maybe when Venus starts trining Jupiter. But I think it's about travel and optimism and positive things. And so I love to see Venus make these trines in the skies for you. I think it's also about faith and belief system. You know, 12th and 9th house is about practice and spirituality in your spirit team. So there can be something that's kind of evolving in regards to that. And finally, Saturn is leaving your North Node. So when Saturn was coming up on my North Node, I was like, I feel like something good is going to happen. I don't know. This is really weird. And then there was like a bunch of like creative stuff that kind of took off. For you, it's funky because it's on the cusp of your 6th house. So it can be work and health related, but it's in conjunct your ascendant. And so fun fact, when Saturn is sitting on the cusp of your 6th house and it's quincunx your ascendant, it's about giving up a habit. And Libra can be about your appearance, taking care of your body, you know, balance, things in regards to your physical routine. Saturn can be about sobriety. So this can be like cutting back on something you're eating, drinking, or some kind of like daily routine habit. Pisces can be screens. Pisces can also be in regards to daydreaming or not managing your time correctly. Not our best quality Libra risings. We definitely lose track of time with Pisces on the 6th. And Saturn is like hitting this North Node where right when it's coming back up on it, you're getting ready to receive something. So maybe it's better health, better habits, better routine. Whatever it is, like focus on these topics, girl, because Saturn is going to start coming into a square with your Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter. I think this is about scheduling and time management, making it possible for you to travel more this next year or be in other places or start some kind of new program or maybe like writing something or learning something. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. And then, hello, Uranus is coming into conjunction with your sun. Jupiter is coming into conjunction with your sun. Like, are you playing the lottery? Because if you're not, you should be. You're going to see like May, June, July with these Jupiter transits that are going to rip. There's going to be some kind of fortunate situation where money's going to come in, allowing you to travel. And then Jupiter is going to trine your moon. Positive, optimistic opportunities on the forefront for you work-wise, allowing you to teach, travel, or publish something. I'm excited to see this happen for you. A lot of things are going to unlock. The key is just learning how to better manage your schedule and making time for the things that you feel like you need to do, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Rachel. Let me know what is going on there. Very exciting. All right, so we have Deanna. So I think you asked a couple different times. So first you asked about your financial situation increasing. Then you said you wanted to ask about something else. So correct me if I'm wrong, but were you not asking about the eclipse? It was like so far in the comments now, I'm not even sure. Let me know, because I know that you said you were like, hey, I want to change it. Where is it? Oh, thank you. There we go. What can I expect for this eclipse? I have 4 kids, and it's been really tough the past couple of years, especially financially. All right, I got you. So we've got Sag rising. Is that correct? 3:37 p.m. I want to make sure this is right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've got a Sag rising, Sun in Leo, and your moon is in Gemini. Okay? So money is connecting to Capricorn or Saturn. All right? So for Sagittarius risings right now, Saturn's hanging out in Pisces, which is 4th house to your ascendant, which basically means feeling the burden, the responsibility pertaining to home and family care and expenses, and also cost of living. You've had Venus that's gone retrograde in your 8th house of other people's money. So trying to figure out joint resources, help from other people, refunds, taxes, spousal support, child support, all of that stuff could have come up, or just having conversations in heart to heart with your partner about spending habits. And then 2, Saturn in this next year is getting ready to oppose Jupiter and Venus, which means you're like, I'm trying to figure out how to stay home more and not feel like I'm spending my time going out and doing things only to like pay money, you know, just to survive. Something about this transit makes me feel like the support in regards to home and family and reconnecting to home and family is important. Like over the next 2 years, it's not just right now. You're going to have Saturn oppose your Venus and your Jupiter, which means you're going to be focusing on work that you can do from home or changes in regards to property and real estate. Sometimes I see people move home. Sometimes I see people move family members in. Sometimes I see people sell a house, and then there's a huge shift. Okay, so recently you're divorced and they're helping with money. So next year, there's going to be a huge shift in regards to either your home or your relationship with family. And there might be some combination of combining homes or resources. Saturn will oppose also Venus and Jupiter, which means you're going to look at things and go like, okay, I don't want to be out at work. I want to be home. And you're going to try to figure out how to facilitate that. 2 is you will also see a Mercury retrograde that's going to start in Capricorn mid-December, and it's going to go into Sag, which means you're reevaluating your resources, what you have, and you're making some changes with money. You were born with Saturn in your 2nd house, so you're learning a lot of lessons about money and resources and self-esteem. Saturn's in opposition to your sun, so it's literally about the relationship that you have with men and joint resources and children. Your sun's conjunct Regulus. So people who have 29 degrees of Leo, they either have no kids or they have a bunch of kids. It's one or the other. So what I can tell you is this. I think a lot of this is about you really figuring out what you value the most, where you could or should be living, and what's going to bring you the most support. I can tell you a time where money is looking good. It's looking good definitely come the turn of the year. So when you have a bunch of planets go through Aquarius, January, February, that's when you're going to see some big changes in regards to your resources. I also think that the eclipses taking place, in your 10th house in this next year is trying to move away from old identities out in the world, making job changes, making shifts, and doing something from home. Especially because Mars rules your 4th house. Jupiter is going to go into Gemini and hit your Mars with the moon. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but very easily it is possible that you have the opportunity to start a home business that could be about caring for kids, that could be taking care of pets, that could be managing homes, that could be taking care of a complex, having clients, right? All of this Jupiter transit in your 6th house is going to bring 2 potential jobs that you're going to shift back and forth from next year. Being that you've got Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Virgo, organized, consistent, focusing on productivity, like any one of these jobs that I just listed would be like really, really, really good for you. So think about what you can do from home. Like I look at this and I go, if you're going to be home taking care of your kids, can you pet sit? Can you house sit? Would you be willing to, walk dogs? Would you be willing to help people organize and clean their spaces? Because these are all things that you can do while this kind of being home and having more freedom over the next 2 years when it comes to your daily routine. People who have Saturn in the 2nd, I feel like until they get out of their Saturn return and they get to be about 33 to 36, that's when they start to really evolve and they realize it's not a state of not having money, or in your case, Saturn opposed the sun. Oh, somebody's not giving me as much resources. You're learning to say, okay, I'm going to make a shift and I'm going to bring more in, and I'm not going to look at it as what's being kept from me or what's being held. Pluto's also still in your 2nd house too for quite some time. So that's not going to change anytime soon. So you want to work with the trines to your 6th house. If you have a client-based business, especially involving children, Moon Mars is conjunct at a Leo degree. So have you considered doing work with other people's kids? Have you considered, helping do drop-off, pickups, babysitting? Have you considered maybe trying to do some kind of home daycare situation, or a child-based business, right? That could be something else that you could do. That would definitely work for this chart and give you the freedom that you're looking for. It's going to be wild next year to see Saturn start squaring your ascendant and opposing your stuff, and then Jupiter is going to come in. I mean, as crazy as this sounds, your chart seems to indicate there could be another relationship next year when Jupiter hits Juno. That or a partner from the past comes back. So you're going to see Jupiter go into Gemini with Venus, and so this is the end of May. Basically through let's say September, relationships and job opportunities are booming. but it's going to have to be one of the areas that I was discussing with you. Okay, so Gemini locally running around. Could you do like a kid drop off and pick up? Yeah, I can see you got a lot of kid energy. Moon Mars. Moon Mars. Yeah, Moon Mars, it is stressful, and it is a part of the conjunction to the South Node, but Jupiter is saying you're going to have a lot of people who are going to want your services or clients, or you're going to have some kind of support from a partner. Like Moon can be home, mothering, nurturing, but it can be dogs, it can be house related, and Mars is about taking action. So like I look at this and I'm like, cool, what odd jobs are you doing while the kids are at school? Because you could be doing more than one thing at a time. Sidebar, I just had to like, find somebody on Rover to like watch my dog for me while I go out of town in this next week, just for like overnight. And I was mind blown with how many people around the app that are like, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or, I work from home and I have all of this space and this free time. And like, I just have a kennel and people just bring their dogs here while they're working and I watch them. And I'm like, what? Like, this is a thing? There's a ton of people doing it. May or may not be a dog person or a pet person. You got a lot of kids, but I look at this and I'm like, house cleaning, organizing, car cleaning, carpooling, picking up, dropping off. All of that Moon Mars is a positive way to be able to use that, where you can basically, do what you're really good at, which is maneuvering people around, taking care of things, and use it to your advantage while Jupiter shows up. Watch your finances, come up with a budget, especially in mid-December. Watch your spending habits. And that's what's really going to help you come up with a plan to feel a little bit more solid, especially as you're getting into, the new year, Would anybody like a free French bulldog? I promise you he will eat you out of house and home. Yeah, so I actually feel like, Jupiter, Juno is going to come together. So if you're not with your partner, at least there's an opportunity for employment as Jupiter comes through there, and you can help him with things. And if like, hey, if it's a means of making extra cash, why not? Kimmy, thank you for joining level 1. Deanna, I hope that's helpful. Come back, let us know how it goes. Definitely some food for thought, but I do see things on the upward swing in the new year. And we have Phaeton. Am I saying that correctly? Welcome. You are the real MVP. You waited until the last bit of time. So we've got you here April 7th, 1976 at 3:57 p.m. in Germany. Question is, I'd like to know more about when to sign a collaboration contract if traveling December, January will benefit me and love. What's up? All right, so Virgo rising, and you're asking questions about when you should sign collaboration contracts and traveling December, January. Okay. It's 2 for 1, but I'll give it to you. Love, you gotta wait till next year when Saturn hits your descendant. You'll have some changes in the love department December through March. Signing contracts, you have a couple options. So you just had a Mercury trine Mars. Mercury trine Saturn. You just missed that. So the next opportunity is you're going to see some pressure to sign something very quickly, I'm anticipating, with this eclipse. So Mercury and Mars are getting closer and closer together as of tomorrow. Your Mercury, Mars in the 3rd house, opposition to Jupiter. So somebody's going to be prompting you to sign it like tomorrow, right? So something like that's going to come up. I would say you can, but I don't like the idea of signing something under pressure. Let's look at when Mercury sextiles Pluto and trines Neptune. So I'm kind of feeling November 8th-ish, right? The moon will trine Pluto, business. Mercury will sextile Pluto. Pluto's the dispositor. So the next date would be November 8th. I'm not crazy about when Mercury enters Sag because it's immediately going to square Saturn. So that window of November 8th, that is the day or the time. Otherwise, you need to wait until after the new moon in Scorpio, and when the moon and Mercury come together and they start trining the north node, then you have another window the 14th and the 15th of November. So that's good timing. Listen, you got an eclipse that's in your 9th house. So there's news coming about traveling, or you're feeling the need to kind of book travel or getting ready to go somewhere. Venus rules your 9th house. So Venus is going into Libra. That's good. We're getting ready to see Venus come into some squares with Mars, the moon, and Saturn. So it makes me feel like there can be some challenges in regards to timing. And I'm kind of feeling like when Venus is not very aspected. I haven't really looked at this transit yet. Venus is in opposition to your Sun and Mercury. So November feels challenging. I think you said December, January anyway. So how about when, first of all, mid-December through early January is a Mercury retrograde. Okay, and you're ruled by Mercury. So Mercury will be retrograding in your 4th house. So unless you're returning and going back somewhere that you've lived, or returning somewhere that you've been before, keep in mind, like, check all the travel dates, double check all the bookings, all of that stuff, make sure everything's correct and that nothing's going to go missing. But, you know, I'm liking like the Sun and Moon in Sagittarius with Mars trining all your placements. So as an Aries, I think you're going to be like, yes, I'm going somewhere. So you could do something like on December 11th, December 12th, with the understanding that just a couple days later, Mercury's going to turn retrograde. So yeah, 11th or 12th looks good. Another option is you can wait until Jupiter is direct, and Jupiter is going to go into your 9th house and Mars is going to trine. So January 9th, really until the end of January, that's good timing too, because you're going to have all these planets in Capricorn in your 5th house of having fun, traveling, and trining into Jupiter in your 9th house of travel. So the 9th through the end of January. If you want to miss the retrograde shadow, do it in January. If you don't care and you're like, whatever, then, you know, leave around the 11th or the 12th before Mercury goes retrograde in December. Another option is you can also wait until planets are coming into Taurus. So in the spring next year, I see some other transits. I think of like the end of May. That could also be a really nice trip too. You're going to have Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Venus, all these planets trine Pluto. So another good window would definitely be right around the end of May of 2024. And like I said, wait till Saturn comes into your 7th house. That's going to be in the new year. That's about committing more seriously to relationships. Be careful because Neptune's going to be conjunct your Venus. So, you know, you want to be aware of red flags. Don't overly idealize somebody. See people for what they are. There can be like a really deep soul connection you can have with somebody. You can meet somebody who's culturally different, foreign, and somebody who has like almost like fish-like eyes. I know that sounds weird, but wider set eyes, big, beautiful eyes. And he might have like a Jesus thing going on, right? Venus at 29 degrees of Pisces. Somebody who's very sensitive and emotional, spiritual. And you're getting ready to also have all of these transits in your 9th house. So I wonder, do you meet a foreigner? Are you traveling? Are they culturally different or different than you? I know you're German, but you might meet somebody very, very different. And you'll know that it's them because Saturn and Neptune's in your 7th. So they're either into meditating, mystical, spiritual things. They might be really into fishing or being on boats. They might tell you that they are into like fishing cities, or maybe they have relatives that live somewhere near the sea. But Neptune does deal with that. And Neptune Venus is like dreamy, whimsical, like fairy tale stuff. So I think about that happening while you're having Jupiter, your 7th house lord, conjunct Uranus. So yeah, they could definitely be into like boats and fine meats and cheeses. Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus with Venus there. So, I mean, if this were me, I would invest in going on a foreign trip at the end of May of 2024. Go somewhere where there's going to be art and sculptures and museums and fine food, and somewhere that's going to be near a coastal city because you're going to meet someone, right? That's just my hot take. Then the biggest challenge is going to be with Jupiter in your 10th house opposed Neptune square Saturn is, oh, how does this affect me with where they're living and where I'm living? And then there's this whole, do I make a job change? Do I make a home change type of vibe? But why not, right? Saturn's going to be in your 7th house. What you want to watch for is the eclipses that are going to be next year in Pisces, and eventually in 2025, Saturn and Neptune will come into conjunction with Venus. So something's going on there. And she said, are they wealthy? Venus at 29 can be, but you want to make sure he's not like a scam artist, because that can also be the theme at 29 degrees. The money relating to other people is your 8th house, and you have an 8th house stellium. So having eclipses in your 8th house with the North Node there, it can be somebody who's wealthy, but just make sure that they're not like, they don't have multiple passports. I have a trip coming to the Middle East. Okay, awesome. Culturally different in some way. Spiritually different in some way. They could have a different background. I have another client who's got Venus at 29 degrees, and I kept telling her, you're going to meet somebody and you're going to fall madly in love and you're going to want to be together, but you have very conflicting religious beliefs. And she is like, I mean, she practices like Shabbat every Friday. She's very, very kind of rooted in her Jewish faith in her, with her family. Her family's from Morocco, but they're Jewish. And they're also kind of like French. And then her boyfriend, oh my God, her boyfriend is like the son of like a hardcore Catholic family. Like her parents like help fund some church or something. I don't know, but they're very Catholic and she's very Jewish. And the challenge has been finding the middle, right? Between if they were to get married, how they would do it, and then faith in regards to their children and stuff. So 29 degrees is a crisis of faith, Pisces. So there can be like, you meet somebody and it's like perfect, and then he's like, I'm Muslim, and you're like, great, I'll convert. Like something like that could happen. I always see that with 29 degrees of Pisces. The ultimate sacrifice for love. All right, hopefully that was helpful for you. With that being said, I'm pretty sure I got everybody. So those of you guys who haven't already given me a thumbs up, please do. My goodness, that was a long show tonight, guys. Thanks for spending your Friday with me. I appreciate it. Fingers crossed, positive vibes for this eclipse for all of us. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out over the next couple days. Please, please, please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would love to have you join me for other videos. We'll be back here on Sunday talking all about the November astrology for the month ahead and much, much more. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.